Chapter 1334. The Qi world gave Jiang Tian the feeling that it was similar to the scorching desert in West Earth. The dark brown and dark red mountains of the Red Cliff were completely barren. Not a single blade of grass grew on them. Large areas of the area were completely barren and deathly still. However, there were huge whale skeletons on these barren lands or buried in the ground. There were also huge shellfish, hawksbill turtles, and large coral reefs. However, the temperature here was extremely low. It was even below zero all year round. There was no one in the wilderness, and the cold wind whistled like knives. Only some cities with temperature-increasing arrays would have people gathered. Moreover, mortals had to wear temperature-increasing artifacts all year round to live. However, the strange thing was that although it was cold here, there was no ice or snow. It was a kind of extreme dry and cold. The sunlight here was even thinner, and the sun seemed very small. On the other hand, Mars seemed very big and could be seen clearly. This place was even farther away from the sun than Earth was from the stellar sky domain. No wonder it's called Qi. It really lives up to its name. Jiang Tian exclaimed. Qi also belongs to the Dragon Gate world. In the end, it belongs to the East Sea class two-dimensional world. Patriarch True Dragon explained. It is said that tens of thousands of years ago, before the ancient Earth fell apart, Hailan, Bei Ming, Penglai, Dragon Gate, and all other dimensional worlds were located on a vast ocean. This Qi world was originally a vast ocean and a few islands. It was full of spirit Qi, and the climate was suitable. It was very suitable for living creatures to live and cultivate. However, after receiving the news that the ruins of immortality had fallen, the Qi, stellar sky, and the other class 4-dimensional worlds all braked urgently, causing a great disaster. Some of the propulsion arrays exploded, some of the earth cracked and lava flowed, some of the spatial barriers shook, forming spatial cracks and fragments, and even erupting spatial storms. Almost none of the living creatures on them died. A look of regret appeared on his face as he sighed with emotion. It is said that the situation in Qi is very special. The artificial sun and the underground propulsion arrays were in chaos together. Originally, the artificial sun was only activated after leaving Earth. However, in this world, it was immediately activated, and the sun's light absorbed was increased by 100 times. Moreover, the underground propulsion formations all burst into flames. Thus, within a month, all the seawater was evaporated. The mortals were cooked by the rolling steam, their bones and flesh separated, or they were instantly roasted into dried corpses by the scorching sun. The island has become a mountain, and the underwater world has become a basin. The ecosystem has been severely damaged. Not even a drop of water can be seen here. Everyone fell silent. This was a great disaster and tragedy. In ancient times, in order to preserve their roots and find a place to rest, the living beings of ancient Earth paid a heavy price. It was an epic and tragic thing. However, after too many years, the descendants of Qi ancestor had already forgotten the unyielding struggle of their ancestors for freedom and their homeland. They had even forgotten that Earth was their ancestral planet and homeland. How strong is the Imperial Thunder sect in this place? I have an old friend who has been here for several years. I don't know how he is doing, so I want to go and take a look. Jiang Tian asked. The Imperial Thunder sect is one of the top 10 sects here. But as far as I know, there is only one golden core cultivator in this sect, and that is the sect leader, Lei Bao. Bai Zhe chuckled and said, the Imperial Thunder sect is very old and has a long history. In ancient times, it was one of the top sects in this world. Even this world belongs to the Imperial Thunder sect. But after the era of breaks, there were no longer any clouds and water vapor here. Even if they had thunder, they couldn't use it. Their power was greatly reduced. The Imperial Thunder sect was reduced to a second-rate sect. Later on, they seem to have been wiped out by the Crimson Stone sect. Their overlords fell like rain and their vitality was greatly damaged. Now they are only ranked 10th. Zhang Qianlei is in trouble now. Jiang Tian didn't feel anything. He even wanted to laugh. At first, Zhang Qianlei wanted to improve himself and surpass him. But now, He might not be able to improve even an inch in the next few years. If he followed him all the time, he might have reached the false core level by cultivating in the Thunderlock world. The Imperial Thunder sect was only 1,000 miles away from the 8th teleportation shelter. Jiang Tian and the others were very fast. They could arrive in a few hours. However, to Jiang Tian's surprise, the Imperial Thunder sect was located on an oasis. It was just that this oasis was man-made with a huge water-drawing formation. It was not natural. The grass was luxuriant and the lake grass swayed. There were a few clear lakes connected by rivers. The spirit chi here was inferior to that of Tianqing School before the spirit chi recovered. With one look, Jiang Tian immediately understood. The Imperial Thunder sect's thunder technique might be higher than that of Earth's Dragon Tiger Mountain, but it was definitely not the top thunder technique. It could not create thunder out of thin air. Therefore, it gathered wind and water spirit chi to facilitate the disciples' use and cultivation of thunder techniques. The dojo was located on a 1,000-feet-high mountain. The most eye-catching thing was a red stone hall. Within the range of the dojo, there were 2 or 3-story stone rooms and wooden houses. They were arranged in picturesque disorder, forming a walled city. There were about a few thousand disciples. Most of them were at the chi refinement level. The mere dozens of foundation establishment cultivators seemed a little shabby. Jiang Tian and the others landed at the mountain gate. They walked up and cupped their fists at the leader of the outer sect disciples guarding the gate. "Fellow Taoist, is Zhang Qianlei here?" "We are fellow Taoist Qianlei's old friends." "Fellow Taoist of Elder Qianlei, where are you from?" A hint of vigilance flashed in the eyes of the leader of the gatekeepers as he arrogantly asked. He said arrogantly, "Now there are many refugees from the Stellar Sky domain. Many people come here to take advantage of us or recommend themselves to join the Imperial Thunder sect. They are all lowly ants. How dare they have such dreams? Don't tell me you are one of them? Do you want to die?" Bai Zai's eyes turned cold. He was so angry that he wanted to kill him. "Forget it." Jiang Tian was not angry. He took out a crystal marrow and handed it over. He smiled faintly and said, "Fellow Taoist, please inform them that Jiang Tian is here to visit." Crystal marrow. The disciple's eyes widened. Greed flashed in his eyes. He rolled up his sleeves and took it without a trace. However, he frowned, looked up, and said in a businesslike manner, "Elder Qianlei is in seclusion. He won't come out for a while. There is a Uli inn at the foot of the mountain. You can stay there first. When he comes out, I will ask him to find you." "Where is he in seclusion? How long is he going to be in seclusion?" Jiang Tian frowned. He was displeased. This brat was obviously using a chicken feather as a token of authority. The key was that he took the crystal marrow and did nothing. It was really disgusting. Of course he is in seclusion in the sect. As for how long, I don't know. The leader said impatiently, "Hurry up and leave. Don't make a fuss at the mountain gate. We have an important guest today. If you offend him, I will skin you alive." Although he was only at the Qi refinement realm, his brother-in-law was an inner sect elder. He was a perfected foundation establishment realm expert and was not far from the fake elixir realm. Just now, Jiang Tian's divine senses had only scanned the sect roughly. He did not invade the hall, stone rooms, or wooden houses. Of course, this was not because Jiang Tian could not do it. With the terrifying strength of his soul-devouring divine senses, he could sweep through any soundproofing, blocking divine senses, and concealing restrictions as if they were nothing. However, using divine senses to invade other people's sects was a taboo in the cultivation world. Jiang Tian did not have to do so easily. However, at this time, Jiang Tian had a bad feeling in his heart, but he couldn't care less. He frowned and scanned with his divine senses. He saw, in a heavily sealed stone cave with a strict array. Zhang Qianlei's dantian, limbs and shoulder blades were all pierced by blood-stained chains. He was hanging on a giant stone pillar with messy hair and stubble. Next to him stood 4 cultivators, 3 fake elixir realm cultivators and 1 golden core cultivator. The golden core cultivator, who was dressed luxuriously and had a sinister temperament, put his hands behind his back and laughed coldly. Zhang Qianlei, tell me everything you know about Kong Teichu's cultivation arts and strength. This is what the envoy of the Azure, the Arch of the Jade Pool, wants. As long as you tell me, I will be the master of this place in the future. I will suppress the Crimson Stone Sect Master and the Crimson Emperor. Of course, I won't mistreat you. Outer Sect elders are not worth mentioning. I'll at least give you the title of Sect Master. Lei Bao, you have no hope of defeating Kong Teichu. The Jade Pool has no hope either. It's useless for me to tell you. Zhang Qianlei spat out a mouthful of bloody saliva and smiled. Tai Chu and I are as close as brothers and we love each other. If he knows that you're torturing me like this, he will definitely cut you into pieces and avenge me when he comes to the Crimson Field one day. You're still talking nonsense at this time. You're courting death. Lei Bao sneered and made a hand seal, pointing at the stone pillar. Immediately, the many thunderbolt stones inlaid on the stone pillar suddenly released thousands of lightning bolts, forming a terrifying sea of lightning that wrapped around Zhang Qianlei like a cocoon. Zhang Qianlei had a thunder spirit root and constitution to begin with, so he cultivated a thunder control art. He could control thunder and lightning like an extension of his arm. Any ordinary thunder and lightning couldn't hurt him at all. But this thunderbolt stone didn't contain ordinary thunder and lightning, but the crystallization of the universe thunder in the void. It was extremely rare and powerful. The true thunder of heaven and earth was dazzling, with a destructive and immortal aura. A thumb-sized bolt could penetrate an aircraft carrier and blow up a mountain. Its power was more than 10 times or 100 times that of ordinary thunder and lightning. Suddenly, Zhang Qianlei's body trembled violently. His skin was torn and his bones were broken. His whole body was charred black and a large piece of his muscles even collapsed and fell off. Good hit. Good hit. Beat him until he cried out. It can help me refine my dantian and body. But, Lei Bao, are you a woman or did you not eat in the morning? You want to rely on the power of the Thunderbolt Stone? You really make me despise you. If you have the guts, use your real ability and give me a quick death. Kill me. Zhang Qianlei was in so much pain that his teeth were almost broken, but he spat out a mouthful of blood and charred black saliva. He was still laughing and cursing without changing his rough and resolute character. Chapter 1335. Seeing this, Lei Bao was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He gritted his teeth and shouted angrily, "Okay, Zhang Qianlei, you're tough, aren't you? I have more ruthless things waiting for you. Let's see how long you can hold on. What's going on? I told you to go away and stop sneaking around the mountain gate. Are you deaf?" At the entrance of the mountain, the head of the guards roared fiercely. "What's going on? Why don't you go away? Do you want to die? Didn't you hear? You're not allowed to wander around here. Are you up to no good? Believe it or not, I'll kill you." At the same time, 3 Qi refinement cultivators flew to Jiang Tian and pushed him. They even pulled out their swords and waved them around, showing off their strength. "Get lost." Jiang Tian withdrew his divine sense. His eyes flashed with a chilling murderous intent. He raised his hand and waved it suddenly. "How dare you hit me?" The head guard was thrown 100 meters away and fell to the ground like a dead dog. Half of his teeth fell out and he was furious. Bang! The 3 guards in front of Jiang Tian were only Qi refinement cultivators. How could they withstand Jiang Tian's attack? They were immediately turned into blood mist under Jiang Tian's sleeve and disappeared in the air. The power of a sleeve can kill 3 Qi refinement cultivators. It's terrifying. The head guard looked up and saw his companions turned into blood stains. He couldn't help but tremble in fear and gasp. An expert. He must be at Foundation Establishment or even the late stage. Should we report to the elders or, "Don't move. Don't make a sound. We'll die if we move." The other cultivators were also scared and stepped back. Their eyes were full of fear, like little white rabbits meeting a fierce wolf. "Baizhe, you guys wait outside. There are no experts here. I can handle it alone," Jiang Tian said through his divine sense. His figure flashed, and he disappeared from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. Even their divine sense couldn't detect him. The head guard's face was livid and pale. He wanted to chase but didn't dare to. The other party was simply too powerful. There was no way they could stop him at all. Moreover, he didn't know that Zhang Qianlei had been secretly captured. He only thought that Zhang Qianlei was still an outer sect elder with a high position and power that he couldn't afford to offend. Previously, he had deliberately made things difficult for Zhang Qianlei's friends, yelling about killing them. If word got out, it wouldn't make sense, and Zhang Qianlei would even hold him accountable. Just as he was hesitating and sighing, a voice suddenly rang out. Suddenly, a dignified shout came from behind. "Why are you standing here stupidly instead of guarding the door?" When he turned around, he saw his brother-in-law standing on a flying sword and landing at the mountain gate. The head guard immediately went up to him and complained. "Brother-in-law, you came at the right time. Just now, there was a cultivator who didn't know the rules. He wanted to find someone and barged into the mountain gate. I stopped him and he even killed 3 guards." At this moment, the head of the guards was quite pleased with himself. "Even if I can't deal with you, do you think my brother-in-law can't?" Brother-in-law is at the Great Circle of Foundation Establishment and a technique imparting elder. He's highly regarded by the sect master. Even Zhang Qianlei doesn't dare to offend him, let alone you? Elder Shinjoling frowned and asked, "Who is he looking for? He's so arrogant and domineering. Is he a guest of the sect master?" "No, he's looking for Zhang Qianlei." The moment the head guard said that, "He's really looking for him?" Shen Jioling's expression turned cold and his pupils constricted as though he was facing a great enemy. Zhang Qianlei was a cultivator from Earth who had been secretly captured and interrogated. Could this be Zhang Qianlei's reinforcements? Shen Jioling's expression became very serious and solemn. Furthermore, the other party killed him immediately after a disagreement. It was clear that he already knew about Zhang Qianlei's situation and came with ill intentions. How can I remember wrongly? It's clear as day. The head guard fanned the flames. "Brother-in-law, you have to stand up for me. So what if he's Zhang Qianlei's friend? How dare he slap me?" "Is he slapping me?" "He's slapping you in the face. Everyone knows that I'm on your side." "Shut up. Gather all the cultivators above the Foundation Establishment realm in the sect and come with me to look for him." Shen Jioling and his brother-in-law were not thinking about the same thing at all, so they didn't have the patience to listen. He had just scanned the entire sect with his divine sense, but he didn't find Jiang Tian at all. He thought that he had used a powerful concealment technique. But he didn't know. After Jiang Tian entered the Imperial Thunder sect, he immediately used an invisibility divine sense and rushed toward the secret stone chamber where Zhang Qianlei was imprisoned. There were a dozen arrays around the stone chamber. Soundproofing and invisibility were the most basic ones. There was also the Thunder Fire array, the 5 Elements Killing array and the 1,000 Blades Divine array. There was even a Divine Breaking array that targeted divine sense. Once one's divine sense probed inside, it would be counterattacked and killed. Those arrays were connected and even a golden core perfected immortal would find it difficult to pass through them safely. But for Jiang Tian, those arrays were too low level and could be broken with a slash. However, Jiang Tian did not use brute force to break through them. Instead, he quickly found the holes in the many magic arrays. In just 3 flicks of his fingers, he passed through the many layers of magic arrays and arrived before the stone room. Then, he used a wall-passing talisman to enter the stone room. "Who are you? Who let you in? How did you get in?" Seeing that Jiang Tian had suddenly appeared, Lei Bao and the others were shocked and shouted loudly. Being able to pass through the arrays and enter the stone chamber without them noticing was definitely not an ordinary person. "Get out of here. Don't worry about me." Zhang Qianlei, who was on the verge of collapse, was overjoyed the moment he saw Jiang Tian. However, in the next moment he struggled with all his might and shouted loudly. He had never thought that Jiang Tian would have reached the golden core level in just a few years. And it wasn't a normal golden core, but a divine-grade golden core that could crush normal nascent soul cultivators. He thought that Jiang Tian was still at the Qi refinement level. Even if Jiang Tian was a genius, he wouldn't be a match for a golden core cultivator and 3 fake core cultivators. So, he's here to save you? Lei Bao and the three fake core cultivators were frightened at first, but they quickly calmed down after glancing at Jiang Tian's Dan Tian. Bastard! Who let you in? How dare you break into the forbidden area? One of the elders, Zhao Juran, scanned with his immortal will and found that Jiang Tian was only at the early stage of the Foundation establishment level. He immediately looked down on Jiang Tian and scolded him. He didn't know that Jiang Tian had been using the divine power of Taotai returns and the thick earth god suppressing chains to compress and condense the golden core. Before Jiang Tian used his full strength, his chi wouldn't leak out at all, and he didn't have any energy to speak of. He looked just like an ordinary person. Only a nascent soul cultivator with sharp eyes would be able to see through this. Being able to detect Jiang Tian's energy was already the result of his powerful immortal will and good eyesight. Zhao Juran was the law enforcement elder of the Imperial Thunder sect. He was usually arrogant and enjoyed abusing his disciples. Didn't you hear me? Kneel down and beg for mercy. When he saw Jiang Tian was a soft persimmon, not only did he curse with harsh words, he even attacked Jiang Tian. He withdrew a long saber that swept out like a gale, and it was extremely decisive and straightforward. The saber slashed out. Suddenly, the purple thunderbolt was like a giant python, magnificent and dazzling. It swept towards Jiang Tian like a sky full of divine light. Qianlei, you don't know my current strength. You must regret coming to the Qi world and wasting your time. Jiang Tian was calm and even chuckled at Zhang Qianlei. He didn't even bat an eyelid and just raised his hand. Taotai returns. This law, when practiced to the extreme, could even devour the sea of stars. Although Jiang Tian had only mastered the law of devouring, it was still a piece of cake for him to deal with the thunderbolt from a cultivator. Doesn't he know that the thunder punishment saber can kill a golden core cultivator? He's dead. However, to the four people from the Imperial Thunder sect, that was not the case at all. They felt that Jiang Tian was simply courting death. The thunder punishment saber was a quasi-genuine weapon. It was given to Zhao Juran by the ambassadors of the Jade Lake in order to win them over. With this saber in hand, Zhao Juran's strength would increase tenfold. It could even split an immortal golden core cultivator and turn him into ashes. The thunderbolt was extremely fierce and domineering, as if it could break the void and split the earth. Facing such a terrifying saber, even the sect master, Lei Bao, wouldn't dare to resist it if he didn't have a genuine weapon. He would have to retreat. But Jiang Tian actually didn't use any sort of lightning protection magic tool. He just used his hand to meet it head-on. This was simply too ridiculous. Did he think that the purple lightning from a true artifact was a joke? Just as Lei Bao and the other two were sneering, they saw those bearing fangs and brandishing claws, carrying a destructive aura, were like obedient kittens, constantly shrinking and entering Jiang Tian's palm. The vast thunderbolts were compressed into a ball the size of a basketball. Its light was even brighter, like the sun. How is this possible? Zhao Juran was so scared that he almost fainted. His body trembled and his face was full of astonishment. Senior, please spare my life. Seeing Jiang Tian's attack, Lei Bao and the other two were so scared that they knelt on the ground with pale faces. At this moment, the divine disc in Jiang Tian's dantian was running and his energy was rising. They could already feel the immortal golden core cultivator. Jiang Tian was stronger than them and had such a powerful divine art. They didn't even dare to think about resisting Jiang Tian. They could only wag their tails and beg for mercy. He has formed a golden core? We're finished. We're suppressed by you again. Even Zhang Qianlei was stunned. His eyes were glazed over and he couldn't believe it. When he parted with Jiang Tian was still at the Foundation establishment level. In the past few years, Zhang Qianlei had also served as an outer sect elder at the beginning. He had also obtained a lot of cultivation resources that were unimaginable on Earth. However, even so, he had only advanced by 2 small levels, barely reaching the middle stage of Foundation establishment. This kind of advancement in the Qi world could already be said to be godly speed, advancing 1,000 miles in a day. Who knew how many people were envious? Zhang Qianlei had never thought that Jiang Tian could improve so quickly on Earth, where spirit qi was scarce and cultivation resources were scarce. How dare you bully my brother? Go to hell. Jiang Tian's eyes became cold and he didn't show any mercy. He waved his hand. The compressed thunderball turned into a beam of light and hit Lei Bao and the others. Zhao Juren and the other two elders were smashed into ashes with a muffled sound. Not even a trace of them was left. Chapter 1336. Only Lei Bao was still alive, but his situation was very miserable. After all, he was a gold core realm cultivator with vigorous vitality. However, his gold core was also pierced and cracked. His cultivation was almost gone. His hair was standing on end, and his flesh was torn open. Black smoke billowed. "Senior, please spare my life. Don't kill me." Lei Bao rolled on the ground in pain and screamed. He was half threatening and half pleading. "I didn't want to make things difficult for Brother Qianlei. I was just following orders. The cultivators of Jade Lake forced me to do this. Moreover, the envoys of Jade Lake will come later. If you kill me, they won't spare you. As long as you spare my life, I will help mediate. Zhang Qianlei still has a chance to live. You reckless fool, how dare you threaten me? Fine, I won't kill you. I'll let you see how the cultivators of Jade Lake scream under my feet." Jiang Tian said sarcastically. Jiang Tian was too lazy to kill such an ant. For a cultivator, having his cultivation destroyed was actually more terrible than death. Moreover, Jiang Tian wanted to let him taste the taste of regret and despair before killing him. But Jiang Tian waved his hand and released several wind blades, shattering the divine chains on Zhang Qianlei's body. Zhang Qianlei fell to the ground, but he was even more shocked. He could not help but smile bitterly and sigh. "Jiang Tian, your strength seems to have improved a lot." "What a terrifying strength!" The corners of Lei Bao's eyes twitched and his heart trembled. He could not believe it. This divine chain was made of 100 refined divine metal that had been tempered by earth fire for 10 cycles. Even a cultivator at the late stage of Gold Core realm could not break it. However, Jiang Tian was able to cut through it as if he was drawing a knife to cut through water. His strength had already reached an unimaginable level. "Stop talking nonsense. Repair your dantian first." Jiang Tian took out a few heaven-mending pills. "This pill can repair the dantian? How is that possible?" Zhang Qianlei only felt that this medicinal pill's fragrance assailed his nostrils and refreshed his mind. It was very extraordinary, but he still opened his eyes wide and stared blankly for a moment before swallowing it. Not only did he feel that it was impossible, but Lei Bao also felt that it was impossible. Putting aside the fact that Zhang Qianlei's dantian was destroyed by the Thunderstrike stone, the residual mana fluctuations were extremely tough and difficult to remove. Even if it was a normal dantian, there was no precedent of it being repaired. At least in the Qi world, it had never happened before. But then a strange scene happened. Zhang Qianlei's damaged dantian healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just 15 minutes, Zhang Qianlei's dantian was completely repaired. Although his true essence was overflowing and his cultivation level was only at the early stage of foundation establishment, it was still a miracle that he could recover to this extent. How is this possible? How could this pill be so heaven-defying? Where did it come from? Lei Bao's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. "I made it myself." Jiang Tian sat down on the stone stool and withdrew a jug of Thunderflame wine before taking a light sip, and he spoke in a carefree manner. He had taken a liking to this wine after tasting it once at the Mandarin Duck Inn. Not only was the taste explosive, but it could also nourish his lightning slaughter divine physique. "You made it yourself? Who the hell are you? When did such a heaven-defying person appear in the Qi world?" Lei Bao murmured in a daze. If it was said that Jiang Tian's ability to control the lightning with a raise of his hand had made him fearful, then at this moment he was already deeply impressed. This technique was too heaven-defying. He was like a god. Even the Crimson King of the Qi world didn't have such a technique. Although the cultivation world was mainly about fighting, there were also many branches of knowledge such as alchemy, artifact forging, array building, talisman making, and so on. However, to reach a higher level in each of these fields was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. It required countless efforts and resources, and there were many difficulties. But now, Jiang Tian had silently broken the array and revealed his level of array formation. The divine powers of lightning control and the secret art of alchemy had all reached a level that ordinary people couldn't reach, not to mention that Jiang Tian was proficient in all three. He's Kong Teichu. What do you think? Are you scared? Zhang Qianlei was delighted to the extreme. He was immensely proud of himself. He kicked him a few times and said calmly, "What? He's Kong Teichu, the ruler of the stellar sky. Could it be that he has already snatched the stellar sky domain?" Lei Bao couldn't believe it. He had heard of Jiang Tian's fame long ago. However, he didn't expect Jiang Tian to be so young. "What nonsense are you talking about? That place was originally mine." Jiang Tian waved his hand and swatted him away like a fly. He stuck to the wall like a fly and slid down after a long time. At this moment, Lei Bao's mentality had undergone an earth-shattering change. Maybe he should follow this young man in front of him. Then, his dantian would be repaired, and he might even receive great benefits and be upgraded. Lei Bao hurriedly rushed to Jiang Tian and hugged Jiang Tian's calf. "Senior, the reason why I joined the Jade Pool was because I was forced by the Jade Pool's envoy and the Crimson King. I didn't want to. I always remember that the Earth is my mother. Please let me follow you and attack the Crimson King together." The Crimson King is just a golden core realm cultivator. He can't even withstand a single blow. Is he worthy of me attacking him? Jiang Tian was full of mockery. He smiled coldly and couldn't be bothered with him. Instead, he asked about Zhang Qianlei's experience these years. After hearing Zhang Qianlei's story, Jiang Tian finally understood. Back then, when he went to the Sword Tomb Island, Zhang Qianlei wandered around and met the former Imperial Thunder Sect master, Tang Yuan, who was traveling in the lower domain. Zhang Qianlei's personality was cold and competitive. He immediately thought that he had a chance to surpass Jiang Tian. He left without saying goodbye and was brought to this world by Tang Yuan. In fact, Tang Yuan treated him well. Maybe he saw Zhang Qianlei's thunder element spirit root, or maybe he wanted to pass down some Dao foundation for the earth. He valued Zhang Qianlei and accepted him as his personal disciple and gave him many cultivation resources. In addition, Zhang Qianlei was also an elder in charge of external affairs. He was responsible for building good relations with the major sections. It could be said that Tang Yuan completely nurtured him as his successor. Although Lei Bao and the other elders were very jealous of Zhang Qianlei, there was nothing they could do. Because Zhang Qianlei's constitution was extraordinary and his talent was unparalleled, his cultivation progressed at lightning speed. In just a few years, he stepped into the middle stage of foundation establishment. Within 10 years, he had the chance to break through to the Golden Core realm. He overtook them and firmly suppressed them. Things took a turn for the better half a year ago. Jade Lake occupied Navy Billow World and came to this world. They wanted to use the Imperial Thunder Sect's teleportation formation to rush to Earth. This was because during the ancient era, the teleportation formation was damaged. The teleportation array here had also been severely damaged. Many teleportation arrays leading to Earth had collapsed, leaving only the teleportation array of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Although the Crimson Stone Sect overtook them and dominated this world for thousands of years, unfortunately, they did not have a teleportation formation leading to Earth. The old Imperial Thunder Sect master, Tang Yuan, often traveled in the lower domain quietly. He had deep feelings for Earth. Without another word, he destroyed the teleportation formation with a swing of his sword and sternly refused the Jade Lake Envoy's request. He looked death in the face and harshly cursed them for their wild ambitions. In anger, the Jade Lake cultivators killed Tang Yuan with a swing of their sword. They supported Lei Bao and imprisoned Zhang Qianlei. A few days ago, the Jade Lake cultivators came again and asked Lei Bao to interrogate Zhang Qianlei about Jiang Tian. They tortured him in every way possible until today, when Jiang Tian arrived. After hearing this, a fierce killing intent flashed through Jiang Tian's eyes. He frowned and said, "Where are the Jade Lake cultivators?" "In the Crimson Stone sect," Lei Bao hurriedly said with a fawning expression. "In the Crimson Stone sect, there is a cave abode called Warm Jade Blessed Land. It is overflowing with spirit energy and is extremely luxurious. The Jade Lake envoys all live there. There are more than 10 of them. The strongest is a perfected golden core great true immortal. There are also 3 golden cores and several foundation establishment deacons." Although the Jade Lake envoy said that as long as the Crimson Stone sect master, who is also the Crimson Emperor of the Crimson Wild World, Huang Qianzhong, gives up this world, he will have the chance to ascend to the Jade Lake world and take up an important position. However, Huang Qianzhong is still hesitating. He does not have 100% trust in the Jade Lake cultivators. After all, the Blue Wave World and Star World were trampled on like ants by the Jade Lake world. They were almost completely eradicated. Perhaps Huang Qianzhong is also wary. Lei Bao spilled out a lot of information like beans from a bamboo tube. Jiang Tian's eyes were filled with mockery. He laughed coldly and interrupted. "So, you are trying your best to curry favor down there. Once the Crimson Emperor is eliminated, you, who has the Jade Lake's approval, can replace him. It's all my fault. I was too short-sighted." Lei Bao, who had a strong desire to live, was immediately terrified when he heard this. His originally bent waist was almost bent to the ground. He muttered with a face full of shame. "I was terrified by the Jade Lake's cultivators. They were overbearing and aggressive, and they easily annihilated sects and killed people. They were extremely ferocious and terrifying. For the sake of protecting the sect, I had no choice but to endure humiliation and make such a decision." He took out a token from his storage ring and offered it to her in an ingratiating manner. Then he started to flatter her. "Actually, this junior has been waiting for the arrival of the absolute primordium dominator. The dominator's talent is outstanding, and his strength is as high as the sky. His divine abilities are unfathomable, and he is as deep as the sea. He is also a man of great talent and vision. Once you come, you will be the great savior of the Crimson Wild World. You will definitely be able to save the world and save the people from the fire and water. In the future, you will be the grand sect master of our sect. We will all listen to your orders. I can even call you Godfather." At this moment, Lei Meng's soul in Jiang Tian's sea of consciousness was dumbfounded when he heard this. He muttered in a low voice, "When it comes to flattery, humans are still better. They are too shameless. At any rate, he is the sect master of a large sect. How can he be so shameless? Shameless." Jiang Tian could not be bothered to listen anymore. He said indifferently, "All right, stop talking nonsense. I will go directly to the Crimson Stone sect's Warm Jade Blessed Land." As he spoke, he stood up. "Senior Absolute Primordium, please wait for a moment. This disciple will come out immediately. Brother Lei, please help Senior Absolute Primordium hold this token for now." Lei Bao stuffed the token into Zhang Qianlei's hands. Then he hurriedly took out a set of clothes from his storage ring and changed into them. He also took out some medicinal pills to repair his external injuries. Lei Bao was a sect master after all. He cared about his reputation and image. Now that his skin and flesh were torn and his clothes were tattered, if this ugly state was seen by his disciples, the fact that he had lost all his cultivation would be exposed. Not only would he lose face, he would also attract a lot of trouble. Jiang Tian had his hands behind his back and walked out of the stone room as if he was taking a stroll in the park. He saw Shen Jiuling lead a group of cultivators and descend from the sky with a whoosh. They occupied positions in all directions and surrounded Jiang Tian. The head guard of the mountain gate held a flying sword in his hand and jumped out. He waved it a few times to show off his strength. He was very pleased with himself and shouted aggressively, "Be obedient. My brother-in-law, Elder Shen Jiuling, is here. Immediately hand over your Dharma artifacts and weapons. Surrender and wait for the sect master's judgment." Chapter 1337. How dare you? Zhang Qianlei stepped out of the stone room, pulled out the sect master's token and shouted angrily. "This is our supreme sect master. Even Lei Bao has to kowtow to him. How dare you stop him? You're courting death. Get out of my way." "Elder Qianlei, what did you say?" "Supreme sect master." The head guard was stunned and his face turned pale. He subconsciously jumped back dozens of meters. The other guards also retreated, surprised and doubtful. As a low-level outer disciple, he didn't know that Zhang Qianlei was being controlled. He thought he had offended the Supreme Elder just now. "Zhang Qianlei, others don't know, but do you think I don't know? You're Kong Teichu's henchman. You're already a prisoner." At this time, Shen Jiuling, whose face was as gloomy as water, stepped forward and said sarcastically, "You broke out of the prison, escaped secretly, stole the sect master's token, and pretended to be the supreme sect master. How dare you? According to the sect rules, you're guilty of a crime punishable by death." He looked down at Jiang Tian and Jiang Chen as if he was looking at ants, and said arrogantly, "However, I'll give you a chance because we've worked together for a few years. As long as you and this villain surrender, I can plead for you in front of the sect master. I told you that this kid looks sneaky and must be up to no good. It turns out that he's a villain." The head guard was shocked again. Fortunately, he didn't let Jiang Tian go in just now. Otherwise, the sect master wouldn't let him go. "Humph, we don't have a supreme sect master position in our sect. You've exposed yourself this time." He once again led the guards to surround Jiang Tian, brandishing his long sword. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness as he roared mockingly. Jiang Tian chuckled and remained calm. He really didn't want to deal with such a small character. Zhang Qianlei stepped forward and roared, "Get out of here! If you talk nonsense again, I'll break your legs. Do you think I, an outer sanctum elder, am useless?" Just now, the sect leader, Zhao Ju Ren, and the other elders seemed to be inside. But now they are all silent. Could it be that they have met with an accident and were killed by this evil man? A white-bearded, white-haired Grand Elder swept the area with his divine sense and suddenly exclaimed, "Is this true?" Shen Jiuling was so scared that he almost jumped up. His eyes stared at Jiang Tian as he angrily asked, "Where are sect leader and elder Zhao Ju Ren? Did you kill him?" With his hands behind his back, Jiang Tian remained motionless, as steady as Mount Tai. "I did kill Zhao Ju Ren and the other two elders, but I am still your supreme patriarch. How dare you? Kill him. Don't let them go." Swish, swish. In an instant, led by Shen Jiuling, many elders and hall masters unsheathed their treasured swords and sabers. In an instant, cold sword radiance flashed and a sharp murderous aura swept across the area. Many magic treasures and spiritual treasures emitted thousands of rays of light. Violent true core strength and dharma power surged up to the sky like stormy waves, filling up the area. "Little bastard, you dared to kill Elder Zhao Ju Ren and still dare to talk nonsense and pretend to be the supreme patriarch. I think you won't cry until you see the coffin." The head of the guards hid behind the crowd and roared loudly. Deep in his eyes, there was a hint of gloating. Shen Jiuling and the other Grand Elders knew that this was a serious matter. They were shocked and angry because of Zhao Ju Ren's death. But the head of the guards was just a small figure. He didn't care so much. He only knew that Jiang Tian had beaten him and made him feel humiliated. He had to take revenge. But now, this kid had killed so many important people. He would definitely be cut into pieces. He had to take revenge. At this moment, lightning appeared in the void and wrapped around a figure. It swept over like a hurricane. Ouch! Suddenly, a scream was heard. The guard flew 100 meters away and heavily hit the mountain wall. The sword in his hand was broken into countless pieces. Bloody foam seeped out of his mouth as countless electric sparks leaped around his body like little silver snakes. His entire body was charred black, and many of his bones and tendons were broken. There was a large hole in his chest that was faintly in the shape of a fist. Ah! Many elders, hall masters and guards stepped back subconsciously. They looked at Lei Bao in shock. Lei Bao's face was covered in dust and his hair was blown up. "Sect Master, why did you beat him?" "Supreme Patriarch, "Godfather, it's all my fault. I didn't teach them well and raised a group of ignorant idiots. They offended you. Please punish them." Lei Bao's face was pale with fear. He ran to Jiang Tian like a dog that saw its master. Then he trembled like a cold signal bird and knelt in front of Jiang Tian, begging for mercy. "Godfather? Supreme Patriarch." Looking at the high and mighty Lei Bao kneeling at Jiang Tian's feet, Shenjiu Ling and the others were stunned. They couldn't believe it. This young man had black hair and black eyes. He was wearing a white robe. Other than being extremely handsome, there was nothing special about him. His cultivation was also very low. He didn't have any aura or majesty that looked down on the world. They couldn't figure out how he could suppress Lei Bao, who was a golden core cultivator, to kneel and submit. He even became the Supreme Patriarch and Lei Bao's godfather. "Godfather? Our sect master is already a few hundred years old. Why would he recognize such a young man as his godfather? When did he become the Supreme Patriarch?" The guard was scared out of his wits. Cold sweat flowed down his body like a small stream. His body trembled and his hands and feet spasmed. He even threatened to kill the Supreme Patriarch. He was afraid that no one could protect him. Even if his brother-in-law said something, it would be useless. "Why are you still standing there when you see the Supreme Patriarch and my godfather? Why aren't you kneeling?" Lei Bao glared at Shenjiu Ling and the others. What kind of bullshit question is that? Beating one of his guards is a light punishment. If it weren't for my damaged Dan Tian and weakened cultivation, I would have killed all of you. You even dared to offend Kang Teichu, who killed the nascent soul cultivator, ancestral patriarch Binding Sunday. Are you courting death? But if you want to die, don't drag me down with you. We pay our respects to the Supreme Patriarch. We pay our respects to our godfather, sect master. Shenjiu Ling and the others were confused, but they didn't dare to disobey. They all knelt on the ground and shouted, "Don't call me godfather. I don't have an ugly son like you." Jiang Tian frowned in annoyance. Yes, 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 Supreme Patriarch." Lei Bao stood up in fear, but he didn't dare to straighten his back. He bowed like an old eunuch in front of the emperor and asked with a fawning face, "How do you want to deal with this? If you want to kill me, I won't say a word. This head of the guards is a bastard. I don't want to see him." Jiang Tian waved his sleeves and said calmly, Shenjiu Ling and the others had offended Jiang Tian. But at the end of the day, they were just following orders. Cultivators naturally had to listen to the orders of their sect master and fight for the interests of the sect. But the head of the guards was different. Not only did he offend Jiang Tian, but he also took advantage of his duties to fill his own pockets. Most importantly, he took the money and didn't do anything. No matter how one looked at it, it was disgusting and deserved to die. Lei Bao bowed respectfully to Jiang Tian and answered. But when facing his disciples, he was even more arrogant. He waved his hand casually and said, "What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Kill him." "I understand." Shenjiu Ling's eyes flashed with a hint of viciousness. He stood up and raised his hand to slap the guard. "Brother-in-law, I don't want to die. Please plead for me." In the miserable begging and screams, the head of the guards was directly blown apart. His broken bones splashed out in the hazy mist of blood before they were turned into ash by the interweaving lightning. Even his soul was gone. Before he died, his face was filled with deep regret and fear. Relying on his position as the guard, he had filled his own pockets more than once or twice. He didn't expect that he would kick an iron plate this time. More importantly, where did this supreme sect master come from? This question was too difficult. He couldn't figure it out even if he racked his brains. It's a crystal marrow anyway. Don't waste it. Jiang Tian smiled casually. He grabbed the storage bag that contained the crystal marrow that Jiang Tian had given him and put it into the sky-devouring demonic gourd. The other guards who offended Jiang Tian didn't have a good ending either. According to the severity of the situation, some were dismembered, some had their cultivation destroyed, and some were expelled from the sect. "Senior, what should we do next?" Lei Bao asked tentatively. "Go to the warm Jade Blessed Land and kill the ambassadors of the Jade Lake. Then, attack the Kanglan world and defeat the army of the Jade Lake. Jiang Tian's expression was calm as he spoke unhurriedly. Well, the general ambassador of the Jade Lake is called the Holy Flame Venerable. He is in the exceptional Gold Core realm and has formed the Holy Flame Dharma Laksana. He is very powerful. Back then, he killed the old sect master Tang Yuan, who was in the 3rd level of the Gold Core realm. Lei Bao's face turned pale instantly. His hands were trembling slightly as he spoke in fear. Thinking of the terrifying strength of the Holy Flame Venerable, his unpredictable skills, and his overwhelming power, Lei Bao felt a chill in his heart even though it had been a year. Although he had heard that Jiang Tian had killed Ancestor Tai Ri, Jiang Tian didn't say how he did it. Perhaps they would join forces to besiege him, or launch a sneak attack and poison him, or perhaps they would use a world-shaking array or other foreign objects. Therefore, Lei Bao didn't have confidence in Jiang Tian anymore. Jiang Tian was only in the Gold Core realm, but the opponent was in the exceptional Gold Core realm. The exceptional Gold Core realm. There hadn't been one in the Chia world for hundreds of years. Such strength could even suppress a planet. The gap between Jiang Tian and the opponent was too big. One was in the sky and the other was on the ground. Moreover, the opponent had the home field advantage. Charging over rashly like this was like striking a rock with an egg, an ant trying to shake a tree, and it was simply courting death. Jiang Tian, although Senior Tang Yuan has given me a new life, there is no need to rush revenge. Even Zhang Qianlei felt that it was too risky. I don't even need to do it myself to kill an exceptional Gold Core realm cultivator. My disciples and followers are enough. Lei Bao, if you are afraid, I don't need you to follow me. Qianlei can lead the way. Jiang Tian's eyes were indifferent as he said indifferently, before his voice died away. Jiang Tian rolled up his sleeves and took Zhang Qianlei with him. He stepped on the flying sword and rushed toward the warm jade-blessed land like a meteor. This, looking at Jiang Tian's back, Lei Bao pulled his messy hair in pain. His face was bitter and his mind was in a fierce struggle. Chapter 1338. If they went, their lives would be in danger, and they might even be wiped out. But if they didn't go, how could they rely on Jiang Tian? Maybe they would be killed by Jiang Tian's sword. This grand sect leader, what terrifying strength. I'm afraid he is at the middle stage of the Gold Core realm. He looks like he is in his 30s. How could he be so powerful? Who is he? Shen Jiuling walked around the stone room. He was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Zhao Juran and the other 2 elders were turned into ashes by the lightning. Even the sect's most precious stone pillars and lightning chains were broken. At this moment, he couldn't help but feel a wave of lingering fear and secretly rejoice. Fortunately, he had made a prompt decision and performed quite neatly. He had slapped that good-for-nothing brother-in-law of his to death with a single palm strike. If he showed the slightest bit of disobedience or hesitation, he would probably be slapped to death by this young man. However, he was even more scared. Jiang Tian said that he was going to kill the envoys of the Jade Lake. He rushed out and said in a trembling voice, "Sect leader, we can't go. As the saying goes, a gentleman doesn't stand under a collapsing wall. If he goes, he will be killed. We can't get involved. I still think that we should go. Wealth comes from danger. How can we get the tiger cub without entering the tiger's den?" Lei Bao put his hands behind his back and said pretentiously, "I won't tell you that my dantian has been damaged. Without Kong Teichu, no one can repair it. Even the cultivators of the Jade Lake can't do it." "Damn, you can't be that stupid, right? Are you out of your mind?" Shen Jiuling was stunned and complained in his heart. However, he didn't dare to say it out loud. He bowed deeply and flattered with a solemn face. "Sect Master is wise and has great foresight. This subordinate wholeheartedly agrees with you. I raise both my hands and feet in agreement. As long as we have the leadership of the sect leader, our sect will be prosperous. I am very confident about the future of the sect. I am very motivated." He clenched his fists and waved them in the air, saying passionately, "I'm willing to be a brick. For the sake of revitalizing the sect, I'll go wherever it's needed." With our combined efforts and sect master's wise leadership, I predict that in less than 10 years, our Imperial Thunder sect will definitely regain its former glory, and the Crimson Stone sect will. Good. It's rare for you to have such thoughts. This sect master is very touched. Accompany me to warm jade-blessed land. Suddenly, Lei Bao patted Shen Jioling's shoulder and smiled. Fuck, I can't even control my flying sword now. I was just worrying about it, but you're bragging here. You're the one. Shen Jioling's face suddenly stiffened, and he suddenly revealed a painful expression. He clutched his stomach and said, Sect Master, I suddenly feel like having diarrhea. Your mother, you've been fasting for so many years, yet you're still having diarrhea. Even if you have diarrhea, hold it in. Lei Bao cursed loudly. I'm giving you a chance to make a name for yourself, do you understand? If you don't want to go, then don't go. There are plenty of people who are willing to go. Shen Jioling was immediately stunned by the thunderstorm. He took out his flying sword and stepped on it. He bitterly said, Sect Master, please come up. His heart was filled with bitterness and sadness. This was completely risking his life. Sigh, it was like jumping into a fire pit. But if he didn't jump, there was nothing he could do. Because this place was very unfamiliar, Jiang Tian, Bai Zhe, True Dragon Old Ancestor and Ding Lingdang met up. They didn't fly very fast. As they flew, they observed the spirit vein branches, sects and cities. Jiang Tian had only flown a few hundred miles when Lei Bao and Bai Zhe quickly caught up. Jiang Tian ignored the two of them. The flying sword drew a white turbulence in the air as it continued to fly towards warm jade-blessed land. A few hours later, the sky was dark and the stars were shining brightly. They had arrived at warm jade-blessed land. Warm jade-blessed land was not big. It was located in a brightly lit valley. It took up 1,000 acres of land and was very far from large cities like desolate border city. But from afar, one would feel that this place was extraordinary. Thousands of rays of light shot out from the ground. Thousands of auspicious lights swirled in the air. Waves of dense fire attribute spirit chi filled the air. Every area, every building, every street corresponded to the spirit chi of the earth veins. They had a wondrous charm. Even the bricks on the streets were carved with countless exquisite runes, forming rune arrays. These were all spirit-guiding rune arrays. They were specially made to absorb the spirit chi of the earth veins. They contained endless power. Within warm jade-blessed land, one could feel the fire and earth elemental spirit chi in the earth veins within a few hundred miles. They gathered over, trembling slightly and ceaselessly. Living here allowed cultivators with fire and earth spirit veins to use the spirit chi that was 10 times more abundant than the outside world. They could quickly improve and make rapid progress. They could also feel the vast power of the earth fire and earth. They could comprehend the principles and laws of fire and earth to form their own avatars and even forbidden zones. The earth energy gathered here was vast. Only the extremely rare power of stars could compare to this blessed land. It was loved and yearned by all the cultivators of the Crimson Fields. However, this place belonged to the number 1 orthodoxy, the Crimson Stone sect. It was even more noble than the royal gardens. Other than the Crimson Emperor, not many people could enter. They did not even dare to approach it. Sigh, what extravagance! To gather the aura of the earth veins in the vast continent here, the person who created this blessed land is definitely not someone to be trifled with. Some cultivators who passed by glanced at it from afar. They all shook their heads and sighed in admiration. 3,000 years ago, the strongest sect master of the Crimson Stone sect, the nascent soul ancestor Red Cloud, personally presided over its construction. Beside him, a cultivator sighed in admiration. Other than the long-lived ancestor Red Cloud, who could control the power of the earth and mountains, everyone could not help but sigh in admiration at the strength of the heavenly monarch. Ancestor Red Cloud was a living fossil in the Crimson Field world. He stepped into the nascent soul realm 1,000 years ago. He was a man of great talent and great ambition. Back then, he suppressed many orthodoxies and finally pushed the Crimson Stone sect to the peak of the continent, looking down on millions of living beings. From then on, a great unified country was established in this world, and it was called the Crimson Light Empire. From the time he, the first Crimson Emperor, started, the Crimson Stone sect was equivalent to the Crimson Field world, and the Crimson Light Empire was equivalent to the Crimson Light Empire. What a pity! Now that the Jade Lake's envoy has arrived, this place has become their backyard. Crimson Field cultivators and dogs are not allowed to enter. A cultivator said hatefully. He would rather be with an outsider than a servant. He bullies his own people and acts so majestically, but when faced with the villains of the Jade Lake, he has to bow and scrape. The current Crimson Emperor is truly a disgrace to his country. He is muddle-headed and incompetent. He has completely disgraced his ancestors. Do you want to die? Do you know that if your words spread outside, we will all die? A cultivator beside him glanced at the cultivators guarding the blessed land with stern expressions. He could not help but tremble in fear as he shouted in a low voice. Jiang Tian brought by Zhe, Zhang Qianlei, and the others to a distance of 1.5 kilometers from the blessed land. They immediately felt an enormous suction force. There is a great formation forbidding flying here. Without authorization, flying swords will be attracted by the formation and fall to the ground. Senior, you should come down. Xin Jiaoling hurriedly landed on his flying sword and transmitted his voice to Jiang Tian. How could Jiang Tian's absolute heaven sword be stopped by such a crude formation? It could be said that with a swing of Jiang Tian's sword, he could cut this blessed land and the underground formation into ashes. However, Jiang Tian could not be bothered to explain to him. He controlled his flying sword unhurriedly and did not land even when he reached the entrance of the blessed land. Under the escort of a few early-stage Foundation establishment guards, a perfected Foundation establishment commander immediately came forward and shouted coldly. His Majesty the Crimson Emperor's personal guards are here. Who dares to fly recklessly and do not know the immensity of heaven and earth? Come down quickly. Just as Jiang Tian's eyes were filled with killing intent and was about to kill someone, Lei Lei had already flown over. He bowed and cupped his fists. Commander Mo, don't be angry. These are the new consecrators of my Imperial Thunder sect. It's their first time here and they don't know the rules. Give me some face. So it's Sect Master Lei Bao. I'll give you some face. However, next time you have to make it clear in advance, or else I won't be able to explain myself. Commander Mo cupped his fists like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water and said with a fake smile, However, Sect Master Lei Bao, why are you here? Commander Mo, I'm also here for an important matter. Lei Bao took out a fiery red crystal and handed it over without a trace. He pointed at Zhang Qianlei who was beside Jiang Tian and smiled apologetically. After my torture, this Zhang Qianlei is finally ready to confess. Venerable Sheng Hua has been wanting to know about him for a long time. Today, Crown Prince Huang Qi is here in person to discuss important matters with Venerable Sheng Hua. I'm afraid it's a bit inconvenient. This Commander Mo and Shun Jioling's brother-in-law were the same. They also liked to use chicken feathers as arrows to extort people. Moreover, it was not enough to extort them once, they would extort them a few more times. Bai Zhe was annoyed and shouted coldly, Absolute beginning ruler, true dragon, do we have to talk so much nonsense with this kind of ant? Just kill him. Who are you calling an ant? Who do you want to kill? Commander Mo's eyes turned as he stared coldly at Jiang Tian and the others. His eyes revealed ghastly viciousness and killing intent as he berated, Idiot, do you know where this place is? Do you know who you are talking to? He was the leader of the royal guards and had a very special identity. Although his official position was not high, he had great authority. After all, this was a place where politics and religion were united. Usually, those nobles, ministers, officials, and even the masters of big sects and wealthy families like Lei Bao had to give him some face and did not dare to act rashly. The people in front of him were just a few consecrators of the small Imperial Thunder sect. Moreover, judging from their cultivation, they were just at the Foundation establishment realm. How dare they speak rudely to him? They were simply courting death. How dare you be disrespectful to Commander Emma? Kill them without mercy. Lei Bao, how did you teach your subordinates to manage the sect? You let these vicious dogs bite people. We don't have to do it. I'm afraid that a mere foundation establishment realm cultivator will dirty the hands of our guards. Just clean up the sect. As soon as he flew into a rage, the remaining hundreds of guards sensed it and swarmed over. With swords in hand, they surrounded Jiang Tian and the others. Some of them shouted angrily, while others mocked them in a sarcastic manner. You're courting death. Don't blame me. Lei Bao sighed and shook his head regretfully, taking a few steps back. In fact, he did not have any deep hatred with these guards and even had a good relationship with some of them. That was why he tried to persuade them. However, Commander Mo and the others were courting death and they could not stop them. What could they do? Chapter 1339. What a noisy thing. Go to hell. Jiang Tian shook his head and chuckled. What was wrong with him today? He kept arguing with the guards. Suddenly, his eyes became cold and he waved his hand without saying a word. Bush, bush. There seemed to be a flash of black lightning in the sky and a dazzling golden line flashed. The golden line was extremely thin, but it was extremely sharp. The black lightning was apparently a space crack. Bush, bush, bush. The guards, including Commander Mo, didn't even have time to scream before they were torn apart and fell to the ground. The broken limbs splashed bright red. Even the cultivators in the distance who hadn't arrived in time were killed in an instant. What a powerful and sharp true essence. Seeing this, Lei Bao shuddered a few more times. His heart was cold to the core. To a golden core cultivator, condensing chi into a weapon was child's play. But there were also differences in the level of condensing chi into a weapon. There weren't many people in the Crimson Wild world who could directly slice through space like Jiang Tian. At this time, Bai Zhe and Zhenlong had already flown into the warm jade-blessed land. Several powerhouses at the early stage of the Gold Core realm who were responsible for guarding this place and hiding in the array formation and secret sentry posts were quietly killed by the two of them. Zhang Qianlei was shocked again when he saw this scene with his divine sense. Not only was Jiang Tian powerful, but Jiang Tian's followers were also very powerful. They were far more powerful than him. Master, the overlords outside have been eliminated. There are only some mortals left. You can go to the hall now. True Dragon hid in the dark and used a concealment technique. He bowed and said respectfully with his divine sense. Bai Zhe stood on the dragon's spine in a hall, bathed in the starlight. His long robe fluttered in the wind and his eyes were shining as he vigilantly glanced into the distance. Okay. Jiang Tian nodded slightly and scanned with his divine sense. Then he took Ding Lingdang, Zhang Qianlei and the others to the hall in the center. This palace was the tallest and most majestic of all, like a crane in a flock of chickens. The spiritual qi gathered here was also the densest. Under the surging spiritual qi of the earth veins, the Crimson Palace shone brightly, as if it were an immortal palace. And in the center of this palace, there was another loft that towered into the clouds. On the signboard of the pavilion, the words, Fireground Pavilion, were written in a dazzling manner. This place was the center of the warm jade-blessed land. The earth-lung fire spirit chi and the earth-vein thick earth spirit chi from all directions turned into ribbons, surging up from the ground and the formation, pouring into it and firmly protecting this pavilion. The earth-lung fire spiritual chi and thick earth chi here were so dense that they were almost tangible. Like silk ribbons, they spat out and intertwined in the air. Here, every day an earth or fire cultivator cultivated here was equivalent to a month outside. Even the Crimson Stone sect that dominated this world treated this place as a holy land. And at this time, the upper echelons of the Huang family that controlled this world, the Crimson Stone sect's elders, reverends, and the important ministers and generals of the Crimson Light Empire were all gathered here under the lead of Crown Prince Huang Qi to meet the Jade Pool's chief envoy, Venerable Sacred Flame. Venerable Sacred Flame, it is our honor to be willing to stay in this desolate land. We must congratulate you on absorbing the earth fire of warm jade-blessed land, successfully refining the fire of yin-yang of heaven and earth, and successfully forming your nascent soul. This junior will drink first as a sign of respect. Crown Prince Huangqi was an early golden core cultivator. His face was crimson red, and demonic flames danced in his pupils. Flames lingered around him, burning the space to the point that it crackled. He was like a god of fire sitting upright. At this moment, he respectfully held a cup with both hands and toasted an old man who was sitting at the top like the sun. As the future ruler of the Crimson Field world, Crown Prince Huangqi could make the entire Crimson Field world tremble with a stomp of his feet. He was the top existence in this world. However, he was still respectful to venerable sacred flame at the top like a believer meeting a true god. This old man was venerable sacred flame. He came from the Jade Pool world and was a vice sect master of the Blazing Fire sect, a heaven monarch sect. He was powerful and had just broken through to the nascent soul realm. He came here as a special envoy to represent the Jade Pool's Azure Emperor. Huangqi, of course I understand your filial piety. I originally planned to bring you to the Blazing Fire sect. Venerable Sacred Flame gently sipped his wine cup and smiled. However, Qin Liuhe has been killed, and His Majesty Azure Emperor is furious. Your actions of not opening the teleportation formation to the Stellar Sky Domain and taking in the refugees of the Stellar Sky Domain have already reached His Majesty Azure Emperor. This is making things very difficult for me. Please allow me to report, Venerable. Crown Prince Huangqi hurriedly got up and knelt on the ground with a troubled expression. The Stellar Sky Domain and Qi have already signed an alliance agreement to resist foreign invasions. We didn't expect them to offend the Jade Pool world, and we are also heartbroken. However, opening the teleportation formation is tantamount to tearing up the agreement. Word gets out. Crown Prince Huangqi, in the cultivation world, the weak are ants and can be trampled on by others. This is the truth of justice. Venerable Sacred Flame smiled. History is written by the victors. 100 years later, Bai Zhe and Ding Lai will turn into ashes. Who will still remember them? His Majesty Azure Emperor said that we are only taking over the Stellar Sky Domain to avenge His Majesty Liuhe. As long as you open the teleportation formation, we can give you the entire Stellar Sky Domain. We can even give you half of the Kanglan world that we have already taken over. Are you serious? Crown Prince Huangqi's eyes flashed with greed and excitement. This was a huge temptation that was hard to resist. After the formation was repaired, the spirit Qi in the Jade Pool world was rich and stable, suitable for cultivation. It was far superior to the fourth-grade worlds like the Kanglan world and Qi world. It was even comparable to the third-grade worlds like the Dragon Gate and Jade Pool. If Crown Prince Huangqi took over this domain, he would obtain endless resources and benefits. His cultivation would improve rapidly, and his authority would be unparalleled. Even among the past realm lords of the Qi world. He was the first to conquer a world from another dimension, surpassing his ancestors and creating history. His name would go down in history and shine in the annals of history. Crown Prince Huangqi, the Stellar Sky Domain is such a poor and remote place. How can such a small territory enter the eyes of our Jade Pool cultivators? Venerable Sacred Flame smiled disdainfully. Alright, I agree. Crown Prince Huangqi gritted his teeth and nodded. Then he smiled coldly. Why don't I give the order to kill all the Stellar Sky Domain people in the Stellar Sky Domain's refugee camp? I will use them as a sacrifice. Huangqi, I didn't expect you to be so ruthless. However, I like it. Looking down on the world and treating human lives like grass, ruthless and heartless. This is the true nature of us cultivators. Venerable Holy Flame first laughed out loud, then snorted with a cold look in his eyes. That Kong Teichu killed His Highness Liuhe and Ancestral Patriarch Tai Ri with his own hands. With his strength, he must have used some despicable means to kill them. However, he is just an ant from Earth. How dare he challenge the supreme dignity of the Jade Lake world? I will capture him and bring him to the Jade Lake. Then I will cut him into pieces and dismember him into thousands of pieces. I will use this to announce to the multidimensional worlds that the Jade Lake world will never be humiliated. You don't have to capture him. I'm already here. Jiang Tian's faint voice suddenly sounded in the pavilion. Venerable Sacred Flame's voice stopped abruptly. He looked at the door in disbelief and his eyes trembled slightly. There were layers of guards, arrays, and restrictions here. How did Jiang Tian and the others get in? Sect Master, he's Kong Teichu? Kong Teichu from the Earth Domain. Are you sure? At this moment, Shin Jiuling was so shocked that he almost fell to the ground. He was trembling in fear, and his face was as white as a sheet. He almost cried. Shin Jiuling had never figured out Jiang Tian's identity. He thought that he was some great expert, so he mustered up his courage to follow him. However, he didn't expect it to be Kong Teichu. He was just an ant from the Earth Domain. The orthodoxy of the Earth Domain had long been destroyed, and the spirit chi had withered. How could it nurture a top-notch expert? How could Jiang Tian have the strength to fight Venerable Sacred Flame, who was at the perfected gold core realm? This was simply a joke. That's right. He's Kong Teichu, the ruler of the Stellar Sky Domain. Lei Bao couldn't back down now. He might as well act tough to the end. He stood behind Jiang Tian, straightened his back, and shouted, "Venerable Sacred Flame, Huang Qi, why aren't you kneeling down and surrendering? The absolute beginning ruler is merciful and will spare your lives." Lei Bao, how dare you betray me? A trace of anger appeared on Crown Prince Huang Qi's face. His eyes were shooting out flames of anger as he said coldly, "Huang Qi, call me your mother. I respect you, so I call you Crown Prince. If I don't respect you, you're just an early-stage gold core trash." Lei Bao's tit-for-tat roar was like a thunderclap. "How did I betray you? My Imperial Thunder sect was the #1 orthodoxy back then. This world belonged to us. Your Huang clan and Crimson Stone sect were just bandits who took by force. Now you have the nerve to talk about loyalty, filial piety, and benevolence. You're shameless. But it's different now. The absolute beginning ruler is here. We're going to take back everything that belongs to us." "Ha, good. I'll see how long you can last. You're relying on an ant from the earth as your backer. What a joke." Crown Prince Huang Qi was so angry that he laughed. "What a joke. If you ask me, you're the joke." Ding Ling Dang took a step forward. Her face was as cold as frost. She said angrily, "You actually broke our previous agreement and want to kill the refugees of the Stellar Sky Domain. Has your conscience been eaten by a dog?" 1,000 years ago, when the Saint Sect Master was still alive, the Chi world was invaded by the outer space. At that time, the Stellar Sky Domain gave the Chi world a lot of aid and let you enter this world to take refuge. But now, you're repaying kindness with enmity for your own selfish interests. You're going back on your word. Don't you feel guilty? Aren't you afraid of retribution? Aren't you afraid that one day, you'll be invaded by the Jade Lake world? This silly girl. At the side, Jiang Tian heard this and laughed faintly. This girl was very pure and had a pure heart. She had a strong sense of justice and was very clear about gratitude and grudges. She hated Crown Prince Huang Qi's actions to the bone. Some of her words and actions were laughable, but Jiang Tian felt that she was very cute sometimes. "Ha, I won't feel guilty." Crown Prince Huang Qi had a shameless face and laughed. "I'm not afraid of retribution because we have the strength to deal with it. The Jade Lake world is our backer. Why would they invade us? You, on the other hand, should think about your pitiful fate." Crown Prince Huang Qi sneered and mocked. "Everyone is looking for a backer. But my backer is the Jade Lake world's Emperor Qin. But you're looking for an ant from the Earth Domain. You have eyes but can't see." He cast a disdainful glance at Jiang Tian, as if victory was already in his grasp. Full of confidence, he tried his best to mock Jiang Tian. "Kong Teichu, a golden core realm cultivator, dares to barge into the tiger's den alone. Don't you know that Supreme Xing Huo is here? It's like a grain of rice can't compete with the sun and moon. You're courting death." Chapter 1340. "So what? Of course I know. I'm not afraid of you. I've already made him kneel down. Are you deaf? Didn't you hear me?" Lei Bao yelled again. Shen Jiuling was so scared that he almost jumped up. He pulled him back a few steps and lamented in his mind. Sect Master, can you stop being so arrogant in a fight between gods? You don't have the right to talk at this time. He can kill you with a wave of his hand. He didn't know that Lei Bao's Dantian had already been destroyed by Jiang Tian. His life was nothing to him. He only had to perform well in front of Jiang Tian to get the chance to rebuild his Dantian. However, he had lost all his power and couldn't fight, so he could only talk to show his loyalty to Jiang Tian. Your Kong Teichu. Compared to Crown Prince Huang Qi, Venerable Sacred Flame was much more rational and calm. He calmly and carefully examined Jiang Tian for a long time, sweeping him with his divine sense. He then said, "If you know what's good for you, surrender and go to the Jade Lake with me. His Majesty the Azure the Arch will only kill you and your family, then torture your souls for 100 years to comfort His Majesty Liuhe and the brave souls of the Jade Lake. However, with his magnanimity, he probably won't exterminate the creatures of the Earth realm after venting his anger. He will allow them to live as the lowest-level slaves of the Heavenly Tao sect of the Jade Lake realm, which will preserve some of their roots." In truth, Jiang Tian had killed old ancestor Tai Ri and Chen Liuhe after all. An old monster like old ancestor Tai Ri was naturally wary of Jiang Tian. However, after looking at Jiang Tian for a while, he found that Jiang Tian was only an early-stage golden core cultivator. After confirming this, he was relieved. No matter how strong an early-stage golden core cultivator was, he was still too weak to fight with a nascent soul cultivator. He looked down at Chen Fan as if he were looking at an ant and said with extreme arrogance, as if he were a gift from God, "Have you lost your mind? He wants me to commit suicide to atone for my sins. I'm afraid that if Emperor Chen Qing was in front of me, he could only lower his head and beg for forgiveness." Jiang Tian's face was calm as he chuckled. "You, a mere exceptional gold core realm cultivator, dare to be so rash. You really don't know what death is. Originally, I wanted to give you a chance to turn over a new leaf and let you be a dog that bites people before you set foot on Earth. But now, there's no need for that anymore. You're not even qualified to be my dog." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire place fell into dead silence. Apart from the people from the Stellar Sky domain, everyone else was shocked and in disbelief. A mere first-level golden core cultivator dared to be so arrogant towards a nascent soul cultivator, saying that the latter wasn't even fit to be a dog. "Kongqi, you are courting death." Supremacy Shenghua was furious. His Dantian rumbled as monstrous flames rose from his body. His aura was fully released as he raised his hand to kill Jiang Tian. After all, he was a vice sect master of the Blazing Fire sect and had already formed his nascent soul. In the past, he could even talk to Emperor Chen Qing and talk to those heavenly lords as equals. When had he ever suffered such disrespect and humiliation? He's just a first-level golden core realm cultivator. He's like an ant. There's no need for supremacy to personally take action. This junior is enough to kill him. At this moment, an old man with a heavy aura took a few steps forward and approached Jiang Tian. He was full of mockery. He looked at Jiang Tian with a mocking expression and said with a smile, "I'm Crimson Light Empire's state preceptor, Wei Yu. At the same time, I'm also the elder of imparting arts of the Crimson Stone sect. Today, I'll kill you with one palm so that you, an opportunist who fishes for fame, will know that there's always someone better out there." Wei Yu was already at the perfected stage of the Golden Core realm. His strength was not far from Supremacy Shenghua's. In the Crimson Field world, he was also a top figure. His words carried enormous weight, and his status was high. He knew that ever since Jiang Tian killed Shen Liuhe and Patriarch Binding Sun, his fame had spread throughout the Jade Lake world. However, he had the same thought as Supremacy Shenghua. He also believed that Jiang Tian was only at the early stage of the Golden Core realm. He believed that his judgment was not wrong. As for how Jiang Tian killed Patriarch Binding Sun, it was simple. He might have used some kind of underhanded method to win. After all, there was too little news from the Stellar Sky domain. There was only the result, not the process or details. Of course, no matter what, Jiang Tian's name had spread throughout the Jade Lake after killing Patriarch Binding Sunday. It had spread throughout the Kanglan domain and the Crimson Field world. As long as he killed Jiang Tian, he would become famous in one battle. Fame was secondary. More importantly, Emperor Chengqing also thought highly of him and would give him endless benefits. Before he could finish speaking, his dantian had already rumbled and trembled. He struck out with his palm. This palm strike was like a meteor striking the stars, and thousands of mountains stacked on top of each other. The incomparably thick and vast earth vein aura swept out like raging waves crashing against the shore, forming a huge continuous mountain range. The peaks stacked on top of each other and pressed down on Jiang Tian. 10,000 peaks and 1,000 mountains palm. Someone exclaimed. The Crimson Stone sect was known for its earth elemental and fire elemental cultivation techniques. Most of its disciples had these two types of bone frames and body constitutions. For example, the warm Jade Blessed Land was a place where Red Cloud Patriarch spent 100 years to personally set up a formation. It gathered the fire elemental and earth elemental essence energy within a few hundred miles. It allowed the disciples of the sect to improve rapidly. That was why it was treated as a sacred ground. Huang Qi cultivated and absorbed the fire of the earth lung. His leaf fire could incinerate gold and iron, dry rivers, and dry up oceans. Meanwhile, State Preceptor Wei Yu was known for his earth elemental cultivation techniques. Legend had it that since 300 years ago, he had absorbed the earth elemental essence from a 10,000-foot-tall mountain every year. After 300 years, he had already absorbed the earth elemental essence from hundreds of mountains and condensed the mountain peak Dharma idol. When he struck out with his palm, strange peaks and steep ridges appeared one after another. The mountain range stretched out continuously, smashing through the void and sinking the earth. It was not difficult for it to destroy cities and countries. With this ultimate technique, he dominated the Crimson Field world for 200 years. He was invincible and revered as the state preceptor. He was second only to a few people and above billions of people. Once this palm strike is used, even a perfected golden core would have to suffer, let alone a mere first-level golden core cultivator. Some cultivators sighed. He thought that he could be invincible after killing Patriarch Binding Sun with schemes and tricks. Who knew that cultivators still have to rely on their own abilities? He can win for a while with tricks, but he can't win for a lifetime. Someone mocked. Just as a smug and mocking smile appeared on Crown Prince Huang Qi's face. Chila chila, several light sounds rang out. When the mountains were still 10 meters away from Jiang Tian, they suddenly split apart and turned into a cool breeze that blew past Jiang Tian's face. Jiang Tian's long robe fluttered and flew straight up. What's going on? Everyone exclaimed and was dumbfounded. A golden core Dharma idol was indestructible and could pierce through iron. Especially Wei Yu's mountain Dharma idol, it was known for its unparalleled ferocity, thickness, and indestructibility. How could it suddenly collapse, and in such a silent manner? What's this? Even Crown Prince Huang Qi looked as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He had never seen or even heard of such a situation. Is it a forbidden zone? After all, only a forbidden zone can split the dimension and break apart a Dharma form without making a sound. Even the eyes of Sacred Flame the Reverend and the other cultivators of the Jade Lake froze as they thought of a terrifying possibility. Impossible! But a second later, they completely rejected this idea. Only nascent soul cultivators could form a forbidden zone, and only the most talented nascent soul cultivators could do it. A first-level golden core cultivator had touched the laws of heaven and earth and understood a forbidden zone. It was like a 3-year-old moving a mountain. It had never happened in the Jade Lake, the second-level dimension and the ruins of deity, not to mention the Jade Lake. HM? Let's see how I'll kill you. Wei Yu frowned at first, then snorted coldly. He stepped into the air and punched out fiercely from above. Go! Boom! The air shook and there was a roar as if there was an earthquake. A towering mountain that was 10 times heavier than before rushed out of his dantian and pressed down like a vast continent. The entire pavilion, The endless halls below and even the area 10 miles around shook violently, as if they were about to collapse. While Crown Prince Huang Qi and the others nodded and were about to watch Jiang Tian die, Jiang Tian said calmly, "Even a nascent soul cultivator can't hurt me with just a Dharma form." As he spoke, Jiang Tian lightly stretched out his hand and didn't utilize any magic energy or true essence. The lofty mountain actually ceaselessly shrunk, and in the end, it was like a miniature bonsai that lightly floated into Jiang Tian's palm. It was green and cute and didn't pose the slightest threat. After Jiang Tian formed the golden core, he had mastered the divine power of Taotai, which allowed him to control space and all energy and matter, not to mention a Dharma form. Even nascent soul cultivators had to rely on supreme true artifacts or forbidden zones to fight with him. How could they fight with a Dharma form? How is that possible? This time, everyone was completely shocked. Is he controlling or a forbidden zone? Overlord Shenhua and the other cultivators were especially shocked. Jiang Tian's method was very similar to the forbidden zones of some nascent soul cultivators, and it was even more powerful. As for Crown Prince Huang Qi, he was so shocked that his eyeballs almost popped out. Wei Yu's powerful Dharma form was controlled by Jiang Tian. It was like a joke. Retreat. At this instant, Wei Yu's heart was filled with warning signs, and he seemed as if he was facing a great enemy. He stepped on the sky like a dancing dragon, and he practically tore space apart as he retreated swiftly like a bolt of lightning and a shooting star. He wasn't a fool. When he couldn't see through Jiang Tian's cultivation art, he immediately realized the danger. He killed Jiang Tian to show off. Since he couldn't, there was no need to force it and let someone stronger do it. There was no need to lose his life. However, he forgot that if he failed to show off, he would often be struck by lightning. Go! Jiang Tian snorted and flicked his finger. At this moment, the vast mountain had already been compressed to the size of a small pebble under the ultimate convergence and compression. However, this stone was heavier than a mountain. It was as heavy as the Milky Way crystal sand and could pierce through anything. Even a nascent soul realm cultivator would find it difficult to deal with it. Not to mention that Wei Yu was only a perfected golden core cultivator. With a swish, this small rock instantly pierced through Wei Yu's dantian and even shattered his golden core with a single strike, causing it to fly out while carrying a ghastly and gorgeous spray of blood, and then it pierced through the wall and blasted apart 3 kilometers tall mountains in the distance before finally stopping. This grand tutor of the Crimson Light Empire, Wei Yu, who had dominated this world and was invincible for hundreds of years, had a face full of horror before he died. He used his dipper steps and wanted to activate his Dharma idol to defend himself, but he died just like that. Chapter 1341. Jiang Tian had killed a peak-stage Golden Core Grand Perfected Immortal, the imperial advisor of the Crimson Light Dynasty. Everyone was shocked. Seeing this scene, whether it was the Golden Core True Immortals of the Qi country, the noble envoys from the Jade Lake, or even Venerable Shenhua himself, all of them were shocked and terrified, and they all took a step back. They had never thought that Jiang Tian, a first-level Golden Core cultivator, could kill a Golden Core Perfected Immortal with a finger. This was simply like a legend, a fantasy story. It was too inconceivable. Don't kill me. Crown Prince Huang Qi was so frightened that his legs trembled. His eyes were filled with despair as his knees went soft and he wanted to kneel towards Jiang Tian. As the crown prince and the future ruler of this world, he was naturally powerful and his words carried weight. However, he relied on the protection of his family and sect. In terms of strength, there was still a huge gap between him and Wei Yu. How could he survive if the finger was pointed at his head? Crown Prince Huangqi, but then, Lord Shenhua glared at him, which made Crown Prince Huangqi tremble and he didn't dare to move anymore. If he surrendered to Jiang Tian now, he would also die. How could Lord Shenhua and the others let him go? That's it. He used the Forbidden Zone. He has the strength of a nascent soul cultivator. No wonder he could kill ancestral patriarch Binding Sun. Maybe he has a superior grade golden core. Lord Shenhua and the other envoys from Jade Lake were shocked, and they talked with their immortal will as if they were facing a formidable enemy. That's right, he has the strength of a nascent soul cultivator. You're only scared now, right? Ding Lingdang looked at Crown Prince Huangqi mockingly and mocked him. Do you still think your backer is powerful? Who's the one who's blind? That's right. Lord Shenhua is just a nascent soul cultivator. Our Grand Sect Master, Kong Teichu, can kill him easily. You said we're ants, but I think you and the Jade Lake are bumpkins. Lei Bao secretly wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and let out a sigh. Then he started to mock them again. At this moment, he realized that he had made the right bet, at least for this round. This Kong Teichu was too monstrous. He was simply inhuman. For a Golden Core Level 1 cultivator to kill a Golden Core Grand True Immortal with just a flick of his finger, no one would believe it. But he didn't know. Before Jiang Tian condensed the Golden Core Divine Disc, or even when he was still in the Foundation Establishment realm, he had already killed countless Golden Core cultivators in Heavenly Star, Heavenly Country, West Earth, and other worlds. For Jiang Tian, who had formed the chaotic divine body and the divine disc, killing Golden Core cultivators was as easy as flicking a whisk. Seeing how powerful Jiang Tian was, even Shen Jiuling, who had been so scared that he wanted to run away, straightened his back inside in his heart. Damn it! Let's fight them! It's better to be the master of the sect than to be the dog of the Jade Lake. At this time, Crown Prince Huangqi couldn't say a word and didn't dare to say anything. He couldn't help but feel regret. If he had known that Kong Teichu was so powerful, he would have been completely neutral. He wouldn't have said that he was going to open the teleportation array. Lord Shenhua, do you still need me to do it? If you destroy your own cultivation and surrender to me, I'll spare your life. At this time, Jiang Tian said calmly with his hands behind his back, as if killing Wei Yu was as easy as crushing an ant. Now, Jiang Tian was also in need of manpower. There were too many overlords in the Jade Lake. It was better to subdue them than to kill them. Subduing one of them would give him more power. Kong Teichu, how dare you? Lord Shenhua snorted and said coldly with narrowed eyes, I admit that I was wrong before. I admit that I was wrong before. You, Jiang Taichu, are indeed an amazing talent. You are only at the first level of the Golden Core realm, but you can kill someone with the exceptional Golden Core realm. It seems that you must have condensed a superior-grade Golden Core. Jiang Tian didn't say anything. A superior-grade Golden Core? What kind of rubbish was that? However, the ridicule on Venerable Holy Flame's face was thick to the extreme. However, Kong Teichu, if you think that I'm the only nascent soul envoy of the ruins of immortals, then you're very wrong. His eyes flashed fiercely, like Mr. Zhuge who was confident of victory, and he said mockingly, His Majesty, the Azure the Arch, is wise and resourceful. He has long predicted that the Chia field and the Stellar Sky field are connected. It's very likely that you'll come here to wipe out the rear. So, we've already set up 3 nascent soul ancestral patriarchs here, waiting for you to walk into the trap. Today, you won't be able to escape. Oh no. Hearing this, Bai Zhe, who was standing guard outside and standing on the roof of the hall, suddenly looked into the distance and his face changed. There's an ambush. Ancestor Zhenlong's face also became unprecedentedly serious, as if he was facing a great enemy. At this time they saw, at the end of the vast wasteland, a dragon-like figure 100 feet tall rose up and flew 100 miles in one step. This figure was apparently a man covered in dragon scales, with a giant rhinoceros head and 2 peerless heavenly swords in his hands. On his broad shoulders stood a black-clothed, black-haired, fox-like woman. Her chest was high, her waist was slender, and she was hot and sexy. Her long black hair was like silk, and it scattered in the wind like a waterfall. The bloodline of the Emperor of Dragons is very pure and has a lifespan of at least 1,000 years. She must be the ancestor of Hu Songhai and Hu Yuanjia. Jiang Tian didn't panic at all. He scanned with his immortal will and said, This woman has the bloodline of the Black Dragon clan. This woman has the bloodline of the 1,000-tailed black fox. She is not young either. Shen Lang should be her root? Jiang Tian looked through a few hundred miles and saw the two overlords. One was at the third level of the nascent soul realm and the other was at the second level. They might be a bit more powerful than ancestral patriarch Binding Sun, but they were still just early-stage nascent soul cultivators. However, this was enough to make Lei Bao, Shen Jiuling and Crown Prince Huangqi dumbfounded. Nascent soul cultivators. Rumor had it that their words were the law and they could control forbidden areas. They were invincible in the forbidden areas. They were as terrifying as the heavens. Once they entered the nascent soul realm, they could lift up the sky with one hand. However, it was extremely difficult to reach the nascent soul realm. It was even harder to reach the nascent soul realm. Ever since ancestral patriarch Hong Xia entered the nascent soul realm, there hadn't been another nascent soul cultivator in the Qi world for thousands of years. And there hadn't been a nascent soul cultivator in the Tianxing world for thousands of years after the death of the heavenly god sect master. Moreover, it was one thing if they didn't come, but when they did, two of them came at once. This was truly a little too terrifying. You want to be my enemy with just these? Is a forbidden area that powerful in your eyes? I can break it as easily as tearing a piece of paper. Jiang Tian sneered and mocked. Hearing this, there was dead silence in the building. Everyone was shocked. Kong Teichu was too arrogant. These were two nascent soul heavenly lords from the Jade Lake world. Couldn't they suppress him? Kong Teichu, you are indeed powerful and can kill ancestral patriarch Tai Ri and his majesty Lu He. However, if we weren't confident, we wouldn't have allowed you to enter this world. We would have closed the teleportation array. Since you're allowed to enter, why are there only two heavenly lords? Watch carefully. Shen Jingjing, the deputy family lord of the Shen family, stood on Huxi's shoulder and smiled. Her voice was coquettish and soft, pleasing to the ear, yet it contained boundless ghastly killing intent. Moreover, it contained vast amounts of magic energy, causing its penetrative force to be extremely strong. Even from 50 kilometers away, it could be clearly heard as if it was by one's ear. There's more. Everyone was shocked. Is it too late to betray the Jade Lake and the Qi world? This is a deadly trap. Lei Bao was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out. He quickly wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, but it didn't dry. He started to regret jumping too high. After all, the Jade Lake had too many tricks up their sleeves. Shen Jiuling's face was full of bitterness. He knew that things wouldn't be so simple. Now, as expected, boom, an enormous treasured carriage that was over 1,500 m in length. There were pavilions, pagodas, 9 winding corridors, and continuous palaces connected together. There were rockery and grotesque rocks in great numbers, and it was like an imperial garden that could fly. It swallowed and emitted multicolored mist as it soared through the sky. Both the carriage and the palaces were inlaid with countless pearls and jade, and there were all kinds of high-level talismans, such as wind-controlling talismans, fire-repelling talismans, and lightning-arresting talismans. This carriage could withstand the attack of a nascent soul cultivator and was a supreme-grade true artifact. It was a few levels higher than Duanmu Sea's treasure ship. However, the most eye-catching thing on the carriage was a red mountain made of red marrow crystals. On top of the Crimson Mountain peak, a strange beast that looked like both a lion and a tiger, with a pair of wings and an awe-inspiring evil aura roaring towards the heavens. This is my father's carriage. Is he here too? Huangqi was surprised. As expected, before he could finish speaking, a middle-aged man wearing a yellow robe with 9 dragons and a golden chainmail on the outside and a crown on his head walked out of the palace with a red stone stamp in his hand. It was the realm lord of this world, the emperor of the Crimson Emperor dynasty, Huang Qianzhong. Huang Qi was shocked and was about to greet him. However, he saw Huang Qianzhong and a few golden core cultivators of the Crimson Stone sect bow deeply after they walked out, as if they were waiting for someone important to come out. At this time, an old man in a washed red robe, with graying sideburns and a steel-like beard, with a rough appearance, slowly walked out of a palace. The old cultivator exuded a torrential domineering aura and was upright and dignified, just like Yan Qixia. Greetings, Ancestor Hongxia. Seeing this old cultivator, Huang Qi and a few other members of the royal family were shocked. They hurriedly took a few steps forward and knelt on the ground with tears streaming down their faces. "Idiot, get up!" The old man in red sighed softly. However, his voice traveled hundreds of kilometers and reached everyone's ears clearly. He's the ancestor Hongxia who wiped out the Imperial Thunder sect and 10 other great sects with a single sword 1,000 years ago, completely suppressing this world. Everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Compared to Kong Teichu, this ancestor Hongxia was much more famous in this world. Back then, the Imperial Thunder sect was the #1 orthodoxy. He killed thousands of Imperial Thunder sect's elites with his own strength, causing the Imperial Thunder sect to become a second or third-rate sect. The reason why the Crimson Light dynasty was able to rule this world was because of him alone. He even created most of the Earth-type and Fire-type cultivation methods. He replaced the original Lightning-type cultivation methods and became the mainstream. A cultivation holy land like Warm Jade Blessed Land was also set up and created by him. Now, the thousands of sects and countless living beings of the Crimson Stone sect respected and feared the Crimson Stone sect. They all missed ancestor Hongxia. Chapter 1342. However, 800 years ago, the Red Cloud ancestor suddenly retreated and disappeared. Some people said that he was in closed-door training, and some even said that he had passed away. However, when his name was mentioned, it would still be mentioned like a legend. It could be said that his might suppressed an entire era, his name remaining in this place for more than 1,000 years. How could they not be shocked when such a brilliant ancestor, such a legendary figure, and such a living fossil who had experienced the vicissitudes of life appeared in front of them? Ancestral Patriarch Hong Xia, a third-level nascent soul cultivator, only a step away from the mid-stage. But he's too old and his blood essence is almost dried up. Jiang Tian rolled his eyes in an infuriating manner. Then he smiled coldly in a mocking manner. "Kong Teichu, you're indeed arrogant. What if I, Duanmu Guang, join you?" As soon as he finished speaking, an old man with white hair and a white beard and an awe-inspiring temperament slowly rose from 1,000 miles away. He swayed his body and the mountains and the earth didn't seem to exist under his feet. It was as if he was taking a stroll in the park. He easily shrunk the ground into inches, broke through space, and arrived before Jiang Tian in just a few steps. The fourth nascent soul Heavenly Lord. Everyone was stunned. All of them were moved and dumbstruck. A nascent soul Heavenly Lord was extremely rare, even in the third-level worlds such as Jade Lake and Dragon Gate. Only a family with a nascent soul cultivator could be independent of the world and last for thousands of years, with a long history, and dare to be called a noble family. Every Heavenly Lord on the Jade Lake was in charge of a large sect or a powerful country. Everyone, from ordinary people to cultivators and beasts, had to listen to their orders. They were the supreme overlords of a region. The Heavenly Lords were so powerful because they were powerful. They could hold up the sky with one hand, shake the earth with one punch, and summon the wind and rain. They had the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. They were respected by billions of people. Now, for nascent soul Heavenly Lords had gathered in the Chia world. If this news were to spread, it would definitely cause a huge commotion and leave people dumbfounded. What's the meaning of this? Why are there so many overlords from Jade Lake? Even ancestral Patriarch Hong Xia has come to help. Many Qi cultivators were shocked. Originally, Huang Qianzhong's intention was to remain neutral and not help either side. Only the Jade Lake's envoys were allowed to enter, but the Jade Lake's army wasn't allowed to enter or pass through. At the same time, many Heavenly Stars refugees were also taken in. But now, that didn't seem to be the case at all. After all, the arrival of these nascent soul cultivators was equivalent to an army of hundreds of thousands. Kong Teichu, the truth is that the Jade Lake Heavenly Monarchs settled here after learning of Patriarch Binding Sun's death. Huang Qianzhong's eyes flashed with a trace of pride as if victory was already in his grasp. However, His Majesty Emperor Qing has ordered that the Qi world must not be made public and remain neutral on the surface. In this way, in order to further stabilize the rear, you will definitely come to the Qi world to ally with us. At that time, we will catch a turtle in a jar. How is it? Are you surprised that you've fallen into such a deadly trap? Are you trembling? By then, 4 nascent soul heavenly monarchs, Hu Shi, Shen Jingjing, Huang Hongxia and Duanmu Guang, had arrived and floated around Wanyu blessed land. Their vast Dharma powers intertwined in the air and trapped Jiang Tian like an inescapable net. The 3 Jade Lake heavenly monarchs and ancestral patriarch Hong Xia are here to fight with the Star Lord Kong Teichu. What? Is this real? Let's go and see. A battle between heavenly monarchs hasn't happened in the Qi world for 1,000 years. 4 nascent soul cultivators are here this time. This is the most brilliant battle in 1,000 years. At this moment, countless Qi cultivators had heard the news and rushed over to watch the battle. This is a high-level battle. We can't miss it. The nascent soul heavenly monarchs are very helpful for us to understand the laws of heaven and earth and improve our cultivation. They can even help us reach the limit. Let's go. Let's go and see. Even some old monsters who were living fossils had ended their blood condensation and lifespan stoppage, or urgently broke out of seclusion and walked out of their seclusion grounds. They stepped on their flying swords and turned into sky-shocking rainbows. For a time, many sect masters, city lords, and even nobles came to the Crimson Wild World. In less than half an hour, the area within 100 miles of warm jade-blessed land was filled with thousands of cultivators. Foundation establishment cultivators were everywhere, and there were also quite a few golden core true immortals. Every single one of them had a noble status and held great authority. They were terrifying existences that looked down upon the world and made billions of living beings look up to them. Everyone was shocked to see that. The 4 nascent soul stage cultivators were all exuding energy like dragons soaring into the sky. Even though they didn't do it intentionally, they naturally exuded a vast amount of mana that filled up an area of 10 miles, causing the ground to tremble and drowning the entire area. The power of the nascent soul stage swept across the area like waves crashing onto the shore. Under their terrifying energy, Prince Huangqi and the others felt as if there was a 10,000-ton gate on their chests. They couldn't breathe and their faces turned pale. Many early-stage golden core cultivators knelt on the ground and called them heavenly monarchs. Their disciples greeted them respectfully and bowed to them. Right then, those nascent soul heavenly monarchs were like ancient deities in their eyes. Their powerful energy even changed the color of the world. This is the power of the nascent soul overlords. They've already touched the edge of the laws of heaven and earth. They can form a forbidden area. Once they say something, the laws will follow. Even the sacred fire venerable narrowed his eyes, revealing deep reverence as he looked at the 4 figures in the sky that seemed capable of holding up the sky. It was too difficult to cultivate a nascent soul overlord. He had been a perfected golden core cultivator for hundreds of years and only formed a nascent soul a few days ago with the help of the supreme resources in Wanyu blessed land. But even so, it was only a high-level golden core cultivator. It was just a golden core that had the shape of a nascent soul, but it was still a solidified true essence. His essence, qi, and spirit had not completely merged and could not be considered a second life. If he really wanted to enter the nascent soul realm, he would have to use countless heavenly treasures, spirit pills, and precious medicines. Only then would he have a chance of entering the nascent soul realm. The difficulty of entering the nascent soul realm was even greater than ascending to the heavens. Reverend Holy Flame naturally understood this. But when he felt the overwhelming energy of the nascent soul overlords again, his heart was still burning. Although he couldn't do it, he yearned for it. I thought I could surpass my father by surrendering to the Jade Lake and taking over the Stellar Sky domain. But it turns out that they've already reached an agreement. It turns out that this negotiation is just a trap. The nobles, ministers, and even Lord Shenhua were just bait to lure Kong Teichu here. Huang Qi murmured in a low voice as he came to a realization. But in the next moment, he straightened his body, as if he had obtained a great support, and once again became arrogant and mocked. "You're so arrogant." Ding Ling Dang, for nascent soul overlords, now you know the foundation of the Jade Lake. Now you understand how stupid you are to follow Kong Taechu. He flicked his sleeves and said arrogantly as if he was looking at ants. "How about it? Consider my suggestion. Kneel down and beg for mercy. Be my slave and warm my bed. Then I'll spare your life." This is your backer? They had great confidence in Jiang Tian, almost superstitious and worshipful. Ding Ling Dang shook her head in disdain. Her face was full of mockery as she snorted. "You will understand the power of the absolute beginning senior. They are definitely no match for the absolute beginning dominator. But unfortunately, you have no chance to repent. Because you will all die. You will die in despair and begging for mercy." However, at this time, Lei Bao showed a deep fear. He could no longer be arrogant. His tongue was tied as he stammered, "Absolute beginning senior, the enemies are too strong. Why don't we retreat first and fight with them?" Shen Jiuling was trembling on the ground under the pressure of the violent heavenly lords. He wanted to cry but had no tears. He cursed Lei Bao's ancestors 18 times in his heart. What a scam! Lei Sun, why did you have to show off? Why didn't you just stay in the sect? Why did you have to bring me to such a dangerous place? At this moment he couldn't wait to run away. However, the heavenly might of the nascent soul stage cultivators outside was too terrifying and tough. They could easily tear him into pieces and crush him into pieces. He wouldn't even have a chance to escape. "Brother Absolute Beginning, don't worry. We can go back to the Imperial Thunder Sect first and then defeat them one by one," Zhang Qianlei said with his immortal will. He had a rough and violent personality and was not afraid of death. But after coming to the Dimension World, he had to admit that there was always someone better than him. The overlords in the Dimension World were too powerful, especially the nascent soul overlords who were terrifying. At this time, they hadn't attacked yet. They just stood quietly in the air and the energy they released crushed everyone's bones. In his opinion, Jiang Tian was only a golden core cultivator. He could kill a peak stage golden core cultivator, but there was a huge gap between him and a real nascent soul cultivator. In the face of such a peerless situation, Jiang Tian should avoid them, save his strength and increase his power before killing them. As the saying goes, revenge is a dish best served cold. You don't know the power of the absolute beginning dominator. Bai Zhe formed a hand seal and his dantian rumbled. He formed a shield with his dharma power, protecting Ding Ling Dang and the others. He said with a teasing smile, "The dominator will conquer the universe in the future. 4 nascent soul cultivators are nothing to him." Then Bai Zhe released his true essence and showed his strength. Qi Yi and Yao Qi finally realized that there was another nascent soul cultivator there. Is it Bai Zhe? Crown Prince Huangqi, Supremacy Shenhua and the others were stunned, but the next moment, they showed disdain and shook their heads. It's useless. It's useless no matter who comes. He's also here to die and can't change the situation. I didn't expect him to follow us here. It's a good time to kill him. After tonight's battle, the Stellar Sky domain will be completely removed and become a colony of Yao Qi and Qi Yi. Chapter 1343. They weren't the only ones who thought so. As a matter of fact, at this moment, almost all of the Qi Yi and Jade Lake cultivators thought that Jiang Tian would either lower his head and admit defeat, or flee at the sight of the wind. Kong Taechu is no match for the 4 nascent soul heavenly lords. At this moment, if he still has a brain, he should lower his head and surrender. Then, he should go to the Jade Lake world and kneel in front of Emperor Qing and beg for mercy. That might be able to appease the Azure the Arch. Indeed, if he stubbornly resisted, only death would await him. But it won't be as simple as killing him. His Majesty, the Azure the Arch, is enraged. He will definitely slaughter cities and countries, killing all living beings in the Heavenly Star Realm and the Earth Realm. Hallowed Sacred Flame, Crown Prince Huangqi, and the others all wore smug and mocking smiles. Is this the deadly trap you were talking about? A bunch of old bones with 1 foot in the coffin want to kill me? Jiang Tian stepped out of the pavilion and faced the four nascent soul heavenly lords. He put his hands behind his back and smiled. He put his hands behind his back and said, "In fact, I'm going to attack the Jade Lake and kick your heads around. Since you're so sensible and sensible, you took the initiative to deliver your heads to me to chop off. This saves me the trouble of looking for you." After hearing what he said, everyone went silent. Everyone opened their mouths in shock, as if they were looking at a lunatic staring at Jiang Tian's back. "How dare you!" Shen Jingjing's charming face was filled with murderous intent, and her long, shapely eyebrows stood up as she shouted coldly, "Today, I'll definitely grind your bones to dust and take revenge for my Lang. You're just a frog at the bottom of a well. How dare you kill the heir of the Duanmu family? This enmity cannot be washed away even with all the water in the 3 rivers. Today I will kill you." Duanmu Guang also shouted. "Today, I'll use your blood and life to comfort the souls of the cultivators in Jade Lake." Ancestral Patriarch Hong Xia shook his head with a hint of regret in his eyes. Indeed, for Jiang Tian to be able to cultivate a golden core in a small place like the Earth Realm, and it was even a high-grade golden core, he could be said to be an extremely talented person. However, he was still ignorant. He didn't know how terrifying a nascent soul heavenly lord was and the huge gap between a golden core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator. Against 4 original leveled cultivators, he still wanted to put up a fight. He had no chance of winning. This would only result in an even more miserable death. As for the hot-tempered Hu Shi, he didn't waste any words. His eyes were cold as he swung his long saber and slashed out. Chila. In an instant, a forbidden blade domain was formed. In this forbidden area, the Yuan Qi of heaven and earth was controlled by Jiang Tian. Strands of killing aura burst out of thin air, carrying the image of a blade and killing intent, and filled the area of 100 meters around Jiang Tian, rolling like a tide, rushing towards him. These space-killing lights were not condensed qi forms or avatars. They were a type of forbidden domain and belonged to the category of space attacks. The killing aura was as light and translucent as a glass crystal. It flickered with multicolored light and was extremely beautiful. But in fact, every single one of them was extremely terrifying. They were extremely sharp and seemed to be able to cut the sky and split the earth open. The killing aura slashed and slashed randomly, shattering the space easily. Large areas of space were shattered. No divine power, cultivation art, or golden core avatars were able to withstand a single blow. Hu Shi had comprehended the dharma of the long saber and used it as a foundation to control the space and form the long saber forbidden blade domain. It could cut through space and destroy everything. Another forbidden blade domain. But Jiang Tian was calm and relaxed. He even took a sip of the thunder fire wine with a look of disdain. A real forbidden blade domain directly controlled the dharma of space. Like ancestral patriarch Binding Sun, Hu Shi only controlled the dharma of the long saber and used it to activate the Yuan Qi of heaven and earth to form a forbidden blade domain. Right now, Jiang Tian was relying on the chaos divine disk to divide the golden core into the Si Kaming, Kun Peng, and Tao Tai returning to origin. Although it was only an innate ability, what it controlled was the true space law, which was confinement, shattering, and devouring. It was also a true forbidden area. Jiang Tian wouldn't take him seriously. Die. Duanmu Guang also attacked and clapped his hands. In his Dan Tian, which had evolved into a spirit embryo, his green nascent soul roared at the sky. Instantly, an endless amount of green qi rolled out and filled the area. Even his hair was dyed green. Boom! A cyan-colored rolling wood appeared out of thin air and fell from the sky, smashing towards Jiang Tian's head from the sky. This perfectly straight rolling wood was sparkling and translucent, overflowing with green, verdant and replete with moisture, as if it was carved from jade. It smashed down like a giant pillar that supported the heavens, also a type of restricted region, blasting space to pieces. He had comprehended the dharma of Duanmu, which could freeze the wood element vital qi. A green dharma of Duanmu could crush mountains and destroy giant cities. Sigh. If you were given 100 years of time, you might be able to compete with us, But now, ancestral patriarch Red Cloud shook his head regretfully. But his attack was still ruthless and merciless. He waved his sleeve at Jiang Tian. Under his sleeve, red light filled the air and surged like a tide. The red clouds seemed to be formed by the rising sun. It was dazzling and beautiful, making people feel warm. It was like a giant piece of red jade stuck to the sky. What a beautiful red cloud! In the distance, a cultivator sighed with intoxication. There were even some cultivators who forgot that this was an earth-shattering battle. They were in a daze and couldn't help but fly towards the red clouds. However, as soon as these cultivators came into contact with the red light, they instantly turned into skeletons. Their flesh and blood seemed to have evaporated. Walala, in the end, even their bones turned extremely dark and shattered into fine powder. Oh no, it's dangerous. Come here. Many people only realized the danger and terror when they saw this. Even some Foundation establishment cultivators who accidentally came into contact with the red light screamed and immediately chopped off their own arms to save their lives. Blood splattered everywhere as they quickly retreated. Da-da-da-da. Is this the power of a nascent soul? It's too scary. A red cloud can kill a Foundation establishment cultivator and severely injure a golden core cultivator. How terrifying is that sea of red clouds that overflows the heavens, boundless and endless. Countless cultivators who were watching felt their teeth chatter. They stepped on their flying swords and retreated 100 miles in the air. They scanned with their divine consciousness from afar or watched with the help of projection Dharma artifacts. In fact, those dead cultivators were all from the Qi world. But ancestral patriarch Red Cloud did not even look at those corpses and bones. He only focused on controlling the red clouds to envelop Jiang Tian. At his level, he was high above and looked down on billions of living beings. His Tao heart was already as hard as iron and as stable as a rock. He regarded human lives as nothing. In this world, there was nothing that could move him. The deaths of a few cultivators and mortals could not cause any ripples in his heart. Count me in too. Shen Jingjing's clear eyes were filled with killing intent. With a shout, the 1,000 black tails swayed and swept across the sky, filling up the entire area and moving towards Jiang Tian. This was not a Dharma idol, but a forbidden zone. Moreover, it was born from her bloodline and was blessed by the heavens. It was even stronger than Patriarch Binding Sun's forbidden zone. Under the encirclement and entrapment of the 1,000-tail forbidden region, Jiang Tian seemed as if he'd been bound by numerous supreme divine chains, and it was like he'd been shackled by shackles that were heavy like mountains. His magic energy, divine ability, Dharma idol, and even the surrounding space had been confined, and it seemed as if he was utterly unable to struggle free. She wanted to lock Jiang Tian up and turn him into a defenseless little rabbit, allowing them to do whatever they wanted to him. Can he withstand the attacks of 4 nascent soul cultivators? At this moment, Zhang Qianlei, Lei Bao and Shen Jiuling were all terrified and their hearts sank. Be careful, Lord of the Taichu sect. It was even to the extent that Ding Lingdong's pretty face had become very serious, and she was worried for Jiang Tian as she muttered to herself. Her eyes were slightly red, and her pair of beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at Jiang Tian's figure in the air. Her exquisite and delicate body trembled slightly, and her tightly clenched fists once again. Kong Taichu is trapped by the 1,000 Tails forbidden area and can't even move. Does he really think he can challenge the 4 heavenly lords? He's dreaming. Crown Prince Huang Qi sneered as he looked at Ding Lingdang, his eyes filled with greed as he secretly swore in his heart. This woman is so proud. After I kill Kong Taichu, I'll take her body tonight and pamper her in 18 different ways. The 1,000 Tails forbidden area is locked down, the Long Knife forbidden area is filled with murderous aura, the Duanmu forbidden area is suppressing from above and the red glow corrodes the forbidden area to reinforce. This is an inescapable trap. Kong Taichu is doomed today. Venerable Sheng Hua felt dizzy as he watched. His mind was wandering as he sighed deeply. When the 4 nascent soul heavenly lords attacked together, their power wasn't just increased by 4 times. It was increased by dozens of times. Even a peak-stage nascent soul cultivator or soul formation grand cultivator would be flustered and exhausted. The Thousand Tails forbidden area of the Black Fox can trap everything. I don't think Kong Taichu can break through it. Huang Qianzhong's royal aura was monstrous, and his aura was solemn. Like a peerless heavenly sword, he stood proudly in the void, overlooking the entire continent. You've all touched some kind of law of heaven and earth and learned a forbidden area. Although it's only a fake one, it's still very rare. Jiang Tian sighed with a leisurely expression. Not every nascent soul cultivator could learn a forbidden area. Even Fiend Ancient Lake in Tunguska couldn't cast it. And yet, Jiang Tian had to sneak an attack and use the Dinghai Pearl, the Darkest Stone Tablet and many other deity artifacts to win. A few days ago, Jiang Tian had even killed Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun because Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun's forbidden area could only freeze a small area of space and the essence chi of heaven and earth. It was still a far cry from Jiang Tian's forbidden area. And yet, those four were different. They had already turned the forbidden area into an attack. In terms of power, they were comparable to normal mid-stage nascent soul cultivators and were much more powerful than Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sunday. If Jiang Tian hadn't formed the chaotic divine disc golden core, Jiang Tian would have had to run away and he would only have a 50% chance of winning. Unfortunately, I've already formed the chaotic divine disc and mastered many laws. I can change my divine powers at will. You're dreaming if you want to kill me. Facing the endless waves of forbidden zones, the divine light in Jiang Tian's eyes suddenly skyrocketed. Within his Dan Tian, the primal chaos divine disc rumbled as it rotated. Chapter 1344. Tao Tai returns to its essence. Everyone was shocked to see that. The forbidden zone of 1,000 tails, which seemed to be able to sweep the heavens and bind the stars, suddenly collapsed and turned into black light ribbons that surged towards Jiang Tian's dantian. At this moment, a palm-sized black whirlpool appeared in Jiang Tian's dantian, and it continued to expand, quickly becoming a kilometer in circumference. It was like a deep black hole, and it possessed a vast and boundless suction force. The black vortex was like a whale sucking in water, and the black light ribbons quickly disappeared. The forbidden zone was more powerful than the Dharma form and was difficult to control. It was the result of the refinement of a cultivator's essence, chi and spirit and the fusion of the nascent soul. When a cultivator used the forbidden zone, all of his essence, chi and spirit were activated. To be exact, it was activated with the nascent soul. The forbidden zone and the nascent soul were closely connected. Once the forbidden zone was suppressed and controlled by the opponent, the nascent soul would be severely injured or even controlled by the opponent. At this moment, Shin Jingjing's face turned pale and then flushed. She spat out a mouthful of blood and the black fox-shaped nascent soul was almost pulled out of her body. She flew uncontrollably towards Jiang Tian. Ah! She screamed in horror and pain as her delicate body rushed through Red Cloud Old Ancestor's Red Mist Forbidden Domain and Hushi's Long Saber Killing Light Forbidden Domain. She was instantly killed and corroded until she was dripping with blood and her flesh was torn open. Her supreme protective Dharma robe had been corroded into pieces by the Forbidden Domain, leaving only a small black undergarment, revealing her exquisite curves and large patches of snow-white skin. Once Jiang Tian made a move, his speed was too fast. In the blink of an eye, Shin Jingjing fell into Jiang Tian's hand. At this time, the other three forbidden zones had not attacked yet. How could this be? Hu Shi and the other ancestral patriarchs were shocked and hurriedly stopped the forbidden zone. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Even though Zhang Qianlei had heard from Bai Zhe that Jiang Tian was very strong and was mentally prepared, he still stood there in a daze. He couldn't believe it and immediately felt sour in his heart. He was afraid that he would never be able to catch up to him again. After witnessing Jiang Tian's power outside the border city, Bai Zhe and Ding Lingdang were relatively calm, but they also took a deep breath. Too strong. He broke a nascent soul forbidden zone with a snap of his fingers. As for Lei Bao and Shin Jiuling, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They were scared out of their wits. Only the true dragon patriarch knew how terrifying Jiang Tian was. He was also a nascent soul realm cultivator, but he probably couldn't even withstand one move from Jiang Tian, so he didn't show much emotion. Venerable Sheng Hua, Crown Prince Huang Qi, Huang Qianzhong, and the other cultivators of Jade Pool and Qi were dumbfounded as they stared at Jiang Tian's figure in the sky, unable to speak for a long time. Meanwhile, Hu Jingjing's slender neck was tightly grasped by Jiang Tian's hand. She was completely naked and only her tube top covered her pair of proud breasts. She had the Black Fox bloodline, so she was tall and slim. She was born to be seductive and extremely seductive. Right then, there was fear in her eyes and tears ran down her cheeks. She trembled like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Against the backdrop of the boundless wasteland and the dusky sky, it revealed a kind of desolate allure, an extremely sad beauty, a moving weakness and loneliness. Seeing this scene, everyone was extremely shocked. They had heard that Kong Teichu was very powerful, but no matter how powerful he was only a golden core cultivator after all. How could he fight with a nascent soul cultivator? However, Jiang Tian didn't even attack. He just spun the divine disc and his Dan Tian rumbled. He broke a forbidden zone and captured Heavenly Lord Hu Jingjing, which made them feel as if they had fallen into a nightmare. Duanmu Guang was enraged and shouted, "Kong Teichu, let her go and we'll spare your life." Seeing that Jiang Tian was unmoved, he took a deep breath and hurriedly gritted his teeth. "As long as you're willing to let go of Jingjing, we'll let bygones be bygones. As long as you hand over Earth, you and your family and friends can go to the Jade Lake and enter the Tiandao sect. You'll also have a chance to become the disciple of Emperor Qin Qing. Of course, if you don't trust the Tiandao sect, we can also send you to other dimensions. We'll give you unlimited resources and help you reach the nascent soul level as soon as possible. Besides, we'll treat the creatures on Earth well and live in harmony with them." At this moment, he offered many conditions in succession. It could be said that he was making extreme concessions. When he said these words, he felt deeply humiliated. He was a nascent soul heavenly lord and his descendant had been killed, but he couldn't take revenge. Instead, he had to lower his head and make peace with his enemy. More importantly, his enemy was only a first-level golden core cultivator, which was even weaker than his disciples. But he had no other choice. Shen Jingjing was also an important person in the Jade Lake. She was a woman who could be the deputy family master of the Shen family, a heavenly lord family. There were even rumors that she had an affair with Emperor Qin Qing and that Emperor Qin Qing intended to make her his concubine or even his queen. Otherwise, she wouldn't have never had a partner in her hundreds of years of life. In Emperor Qin Qing's heart, she might be even more important than Qin Liuhe. This trip was to increase her bargaining chip and make it easier for her to climb up the ranks. Duanmu Guang and the others certainly hated Jiang Tian. After all, Jiang Tian had killed more than one of their descendants. Every single one of these heirs had been nurtured with endless resources and painstaking efforts. However, because of Hu Jingjing's special identity, they didn't dare to do anything to Jiang Tian. Even if Emperor Qin Qing were there, he would let Jiang Tian go for the time being to save Shen Jingjing. Of course, it was also possible that he would secretly kill Jiang Tian afterward. Everyone thought that Jiang Tian would stop after he got what he wanted. Even Crown Prince Huang Qi was envious. He was a genius and came from a noble family, but he also tried his best to please and give the envoys of the Jade Lake a lot of benefits. He finally had the chance to enter the Jade Lake, but whether he could enter the Tiandao sect was still a big question. But this, a lowly ant from the Earth realm, had such great fortune. It could be said that he had reached the heavens in a single bound. Let go of the grudge between us? Jiang Tian squeezed Shen Jingjing's neck and looked around at Duanmu Guang and the others. What right do you have to forget about it? You killed so many of my people. Don't you want to pay with your life? Kong Teichu, what do you mean? Rhinoceros who shouted with his eyes wide open. His voice was like thunder. His long saber was still stable and didn't dissipate. It was obviously stronger than Patriarch Binding Rees. Patriarch Binding Rees' forbidden area could only hold on for a few seconds. What do I mean? Old bastard, don't you understand human language? I'm a vengeful and narrow-minded person. Of course I'll kill you and the forces of the Jade Lake who are my enemies. Jiang Tian carried Shen Jingjing with one hand. He was still calm and composed as he smiled and said with a smile, I'll cut off Emperor Qinqing's head too. What a joke. Jade Lake, the Tiandao sect and your families are nothing. Do you think I want to go? I want to go. I want to be an emperor. I don't want to be a personal disciple. Who does Emperor Qinqing think he is? What right does he have to be my master? In the vast universe and the endless starry sky, how many people are qualified to be my Jiang Taichu's master? To put it bluntly, Emperor Qinqing isn't even qualified to be my sword slave. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Saint Fire's Dantian rumbled as his aura surged. He roared, How dare you hurt Fairy Jingjing? Do you think you can leave here alive? Even if you have the ability to reach the heavens, you can only die here. Saint Fire, what's the point of hiding in the back? Come and fight me if you have the guts. Jiang Tian laughed, and the hand that was holding Shen Jingjing's neck suddenly tightened. The black fox fur on her arms and neck appeared and disappeared. It was a sign that her true essence was suppressed and her cultivation level dropped temporarily. She was about to reveal her nascent soul. Taoist Tai Chu, I advise you to take a step back. Saint Fire didn't dare to go up. He snorted and stopped talking. Huang Qianzhong also softened his tone and tried to persuade Jiang Tian with a smile. The Earth domain and the Stellar Sky domain are poor places after all. You're invincible. What's the point of calling yourself a Dao ancestor? Why don't we pledge our loyalty to Emperor Qinqing and go up to heaven to enjoy the blessings of immortals forever? Kong Teichu, let go. Red Cloud Patriarch shook her head and said, The teleportation array between the Stellar Sky domain and the Kanglin domain is unimpeded. There are countless experts in the Kanglin domain. If you're stubborn and resist today, even nascent soul old monsters won't be able to leave here alive. Many cultivators couldn't help but change their expressions upon hearing this as their imaginations ran wild. Originally, the people of the Jade Lake world could enter the Qi world through the teleportation array. It was even easier to reach the Qi world from the Kanglin domain. After all, both were within the solar system and were very close to each other. The Kanglin domain had been occupied by the Jade Lake for a long time. It was even a few years earlier than the Stellar Sky domain. There were countless experts of the Jade Lake and even nascent soul realm experts from other realms that were on good terms with the Jade Lake. In this way, there might be more than a few nascent soul realm experts in this domain. There might even be late-stage nascent soul realm experts and veteran nascent soul realm experts. At this moment, everyone held their breath and looked at Jiang Tian, waiting for Jiang Tian's decision. Tai Chu Sovereign, this is a good condition. There's no need to fall out with the other party. Lei Bao and Shen Jioling were communicating with their divine senses, trying to persuade Jiang Tian to make peace with the other party. In such a situation, any wise person would know what to do. Jiang Tian had already killed Patriarch Tai Ri and Chen Liuhe. Today, he had defeated Shen Jingjing. This was an extremely great achievement. With just these two battles, he could be proud of the Jade Lake world and even all the third-grade realms. Moreover, if Jiang Tian was afraid of Emperor Qinqing's revenge, he didn't have to enter the Jade Lake. No one could ignore his achievements. He would be recruited by other realms. It could be said that his future was bright and smooth. He would become a genius of the youngest generation, gain both fame and fortune, and have unparalleled glory. Jiang Tian didn't have to add fuel to the fire and make a life-and-death feud with Emperor Qinqing. At this moment, Jiang Tian had already won reputation by letting go of Shen Jingjing. He could also escape unscathed in exchange for safety and a chance to ascend to the heavens. For many people, why wouldn't they do such a good thing? I have a problem. I'm timid. When others threaten me, I'm so scared. If my hand trembles, it's easy for me to kill someone. However, to everyone's surprise, Jiang Tian acted as if he didn't hear anything and said with a smile. As he spoke, he shook his arm and was about to crush this girl. Chapter 1345. How dare you! Duanmu Guang and the others were enraged. Cracking sounds came from all kinds of forbidden realms as they prepared to attack. Jiang Tian leisurely glanced at the three and said with a smile, "In this 9 heavens 10 earths, there really aren't many things that I, Jiang Taichu, don't dare to do. If you dare to kill her, there won't be a place for you anywhere in the world. The Jade Lake world won't give up until you and your family are annihilated." Hu Shi made a vow and his killing intent soared. "Lord Taichu, don't kill me. I'll satisfy you in any way you want." Shen Jingjing sensed Jiang Tian's killing intent. She spoke with her immortal will and twisted her snake-like body, trying her best to seduce him. "Annihilate my family? I'm so scared." But Jiang Tian didn't even look at Shen Jingjing. How could such a woman make him feel the slightest bit? "Then you can try." Jiang Tian only looked at Duanmu Guang and the other 2 nascent soul cultivators coldly. Then he suddenly shook his arm and the power of the Kuan Peng divine body burst out. Countless crystal clear wings moved along his arm and slashed like a peerless heavenly sword, as if they could split the sky and the earth. Countless people exclaimed. But it was too late. A mournful and sorrowful scream resounded. Under the astonished gazes of countless people and the suppression of the 3 nascent soul stage cultivators, Shen Jingjing was cut into a rain of flesh. A mist of blood and broken jade-like bones drifted in the air. She had perished and breathed her last. Even her nascent soul was shattered in an instant. For a moment, the world became extremely quiet and everyone was stunned. The 3 nascent soul stage cultivators threatened Jiang Taichu verbally and personally suppressed Shen Jingjing. They were surrounded by tens of thousands of soldiers, but Jiang Taichu still killed Shen Jingjing without any hesitation. At this moment, everyone's hearts were palpitating. Kong Taichu first killed the Arch-Chin-Ching's son and then his woman. It was an irreconcilable feud. The 2 sides could only fight to the death. He destroyed the nascent soul with one attack. How terrifying! As for Venerable Holy Fire and the others who had higher cultivation bases and were more insightful, they were even more shocked by Jiang Tian's terrifying abilities and strength. Nascent soul. It was the condensation of a cultivator's essence, energy, and spirit. It was an even higher level life form that was 10 times, 100 times tougher than a golden core. It was eternal, indestructible, and difficult to destroy. In their eyes, Jiang Tian, who had shattered the nascent soul stage, might have a slim chance of winning against 3 nascent soul stage cultivators, but he already had the strength to suppress all gold core stage cultivators. How terrifying! Those people who were laughing at Jiang Tian just now felt chills all over their bodies. They were so scared that they sat on the ground and pissed their pants. Jiang Tian's strength could even shatter a nascent soul in an instant. If he wanted to settle the score with them, wouldn't he be dead? This is too domineering and ruthless. I like it. After a few seconds, Bai Zhe came back to his senses and laughed loudly. Zhang Qianlei and the others gasped. "It's over! It's over!" As for Lei Sin, Shen Jiuling and the others, their vision turned dark, and they almost fainted. Now, there was no way to negotiate. What followed next would be a world-shaking battle, one to the death, and the other to the death. "Little bastard, I'm going to tear you into pieces today." Hu Shi's roar resounded through the world. At this moment, he was like an enraged Tyrannosaurus. Shen Jingjing had participated in this battle to gain experience. Emperor Qin had said that they had to protect her. Now that she was killed, Emperor Qin would be furious and he would not be able to escape responsibility. Boom! The long blade forbidden realm that he had just disappeared appeared again. Space blade aura and killing aura surrounded Jiang Tian and locked him in place. Suppress! Duanmu Guang also stomped his foot. The forbidden realm that looked like green jade tore the space apart and pressed down on Jiang Tian again. Go to hell! Ancestral Patriarch Red Cloud waved his sleeves and the rolling red clouds turned into wisps of essence chi that pushed toward Jiang Tian from all directions. They overlapped with each other like a red smoke screen, trying to seal and kill Jiang Tian completely. "Ha, you want to kill me? You're too weak. Brave. Jiang Tian said in a voice filled with mockery. Then he let out a long roar and threw out a simple punch. At this moment, Jiang Tian was extremely happy. Earlier he had used the power of the sky-severing sword to break ancestral patriarch Tai Ri's forbidden realm. But just now, he had broken the forbidden realm with his body, which was the result of the stabilization of his chaotic divine plate golden core. Now, every movement of his contained the aura of Dharma laws and truth. Controlling the forbidden realm was like an instinct, as if it was his divine power. Jiang Tian's punch looked ordinary at first, like a child's punch. It didn't even have much strength. But the moment he threw the punch, there was an earth-shattering roar and the shadow of a Kunpeng appeared in front of Jiang Tian's fist. It suddenly turned into a dazzling golden line. There was a sizzling sound. With an ear-piercing sound, Hushi's long saber forbidden domain was sliced into two like butter being sliced by a red-hot saber. The boundless space saber radiance was completely shattered into a mess of space fragments, like a pile of messy ash. The golden line was very thin, but it looked extremely sturdy. It was like an indestructible vajra, with an aura of immortality. The golden line was so sharp that it seemed to split space and heaven and earth. At this moment, there was nothing in everyone's eyes except for the dazzling and sharp golden line. Sizzle! There was another sharp sound. The endless red cloud poisonous mist was also broken, and it was even easier. It was like a piece of paper being torn apart. How is this possible? The spirit embryo trembled and Hushi suffered a backlash. His nascent soul let out a cry and his huge body shook violently. A stream of blood spurted out from his mouth. He can break the forbidden realm with his body. Red Cloud Ancestor also cried out. His face turned as white as a sheet of paper, filled with fear and disbelief. He retreated dozens of miles as if he had seen a ghost. Jiang Tian used the Kunpeng divine body to break the laws of space, and his speed was too fast. He broke through two forbidden realms in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the rolling green jade forbidden realm had just landed 10 meters above Jiang Tian's head. He must die. Duanmu Guang roared. The nascent soul in his body roared as he frantically activated the forbidden realm to speed up the suppression of Jiang Tian. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian only took a step in the air, and as if he had shrunk the ground into an inch, he instantly left the area and dodged the rolling green jade forbidden realm with ease. Boom! Space crumbled and black cracks appeared like spider webs at the place where Jiang Tian was just a moment ago. Countless spatial fragments were like multicolored glass, reflecting a magnificent radiance that cut through everything and shot out in all directions. What a fast movement technique, to destroy space with his body. Seeing Jiang Tian rushing towards him, Red Cloud Ancestor's face changed drastically. His face was filled with fear and panic as he retreated as if he had seen a devil. Don't retreat. Let's attack together. Hushi roared and took out a Dharma treasure. It was a palm-sized dragon rhinoceros head and he threw it at Jiang Tian. The head of the rhinoceros grew larger with the wind. It was like a huge mountain in the sky. The aura of the rhinoceros soared into the sky, and the might of the dragon was vast. It swept through the sky, causing the void to tremble. The ground within a radius of 100 miles was trembling, and it quickly collapsed, splitting open huge ravines. The horns on the head were like peerless heavenly swords, sending out a powerful wave of Dharma powers as it struck at Jiang Tian. That's a supreme-grade true artifact. It's the head of a prehistoric dragon rhinoceros, known as the ancestor rhinoceros head. Rumor has it that a soul formation cultivator died and was obtained by Senior Hushi. He used his blood essence for 10 years to refine it. It's not far from a higher-grade Dao artifact. There's only a fine line separating it. Huang Qianzhong's pupils contracted and his eyes were filled with envy. He sighed and commented leisurely. A supreme-grade true artifact. Many people cried out in surprise. A true artifact was related to the laws of heaven and earth and contained endless truths. Normally, only nascent soul cultivators were able to use it. A Dao artifact was even more advanced. It was made of rare materials and was extremely powerful. Besides, It had to be made according to the laws of heaven and earth and contained the truth of the universe. A Tao artifact was rare and difficult to use. Only soul formation grand cultivators or void return or Tao reunion overlords could use it. A supreme-grade true artifact might not be as powerful as a Tao artifact, but it was also extremely rare and powerful. Its owner's power would be increased by 10 times and it would be able to kill a mid-stage nascent soul cultivator or even severely injure a peak-stage nascent soul cultivator. Meanwhile, in everyone's eyes, Jiang Tian was as tiny as a speck of dust in front of the giant dragon rhinoceros head. He was like a chicken egg in front of a mountain. He was basically throwing an egg against a rock and digging his own grave. That supreme-grade true artifact, the ancestor rhinoceros head, was the trump card of the dragon rhinoceros Hu family. Even the elites on the war god roll of the ruins of deity wouldn't dare to face it head-on. They would have to be careful and avoid it. Chapter 1346. Use the Heaven-Extinguishing Sword. This time, it wasn't just Ding Lingdang and Zhang Qianlei who panicked. Even Bai Zhe, who was always composed, panicked and warned loudly. Even the ancestral patriarch of the True Dragon sect, who knew Jiang Tian's power very well, was worried. Chen Fan had used a supreme-grade true artifact and was a nascent soul heavenly lord. His power had already reached an unimaginable level. The True Dragon sect couldn't see through him anymore. In his opinion, Jiang Tian could only hope to break the supreme-grade true artifact with the Heaven-Extinguishing Sword, which was a more advanced deity artifact. Kong Teichu won't be able to withstand it this time. While many cultivators of the Jade Lake and the Qi sect were confident and smirked, waiting to see Jiang Tian die. Is a supreme-grade true artifact that impressive? It's just a piece of scrap metal in my eyes, Kong Teichu. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Jiang Tianzong laughed heartily. He didn't use the Heaven-Extinguishing Sword, nor did he dodge. Instead, he sped up instead of slowing down. He turned into a dazzling beam of golden light and crashed toward the rhinoceros head. Watch out! The True Dragon sect and Bai Zhe yelled. Ding Lingdang was so scared that she closed her eyes and didn't dare to watch. But what happened next was beyond everyone's imagination. Swish! Jiang Tian sped up and seemed to be able to destroy the dimension and stop time. His body let out a bright aura and the shadow of a Kunpeng appeared. The Kunpeng's shadow became more and more real while Jiang Tian's energy became weaker. The moment Jiang Tian's original body completely disappeared and transformed into the Kunpeng divine body, the Kunpeng divine body suddenly stretched to its limit and turned into a huge light pillar that was as thick as a bucket and seemed to be able to sweep across the world. It directly crashed into the mountain-like head of the dragon rhino. Boom! Under everyone's astonished gaze. The golden light easily pierced through the ancestral dragon rhinoceros's head, and it was as if several dozen nuclear weapons had exploded at the same time. Violent gales howled between the heavens and the earth, and everything was in a state of chaos. Huge mushroom clouds soared into the sky, and violent shock waves collided and tore at each other, causing a second explosion. Down below, the towering peaks and lofty ridges were all shattered, and huge pits with a radius of 1 mile appeared one after another. With these pits as circular circles, huge gullies spread out like spider webs on the red, desolate land. This was a shocking scene. Jiang Tian had broken through a top-grade true artifact, and the red cliffs of the Pill Cliff had turned into dust one after another. Rubble pierced through the sky, and waves of qi swept across the sky for dozens of li. Everything within a radius of 100 li was violently shaking, and even the entire continent was shaking. Pooh! Hu Shi's body shook violently, and he was sent flying 1,000 meters away. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, and his face twisted with pain. This top-grade true artifact was a life artifact that he had refined with his life essence blood and was closely connected to his nascent soul. Once it was broken, he would immediately suffer a backlash. When Jiang Tian safely passed through the ancestral dragon rhinoceros head and the rolling smoke and reappeared, the area within 100 li was deathly silent and countless people were dumbfounded. Breaking a top-grade true artifact with one strike? This can't be real, right? Am I seeing things? A top-grade true artifact was broken by his physical body. Breaking a top-grade true artifact with his physical body? This is too terrifying. Crown Prince Huang Qi and Huang Qianzhong were dumbfounded. Even Saint Flame Venerable's mouth was wide open, and he couldn't close it for a long time. So Jiang Tian roared, and for the first time, he made a real move. He raised his palm like a knife and slashed down. Sky splitting. Crack. Dozens of golden rays formed in the sky, and the eerie sword light formed a bright sword curtain, which slashed at Hushi like a hot knife through butter. At this time, Jiang Tian's gung metal divine power was used as the body and the Kunpeng laws were used as the weapon. The gung metal sword aura was already the sharpest thing in the world, and with the Kunpeng laws, its power increased tenfold, which was enough to destroy everything. Not even a nascent soul cultivator could block it. Hushi panicked and retreated in the sky. His nascent soul was severely injured and he couldn't resist at all. Cultivator Hushi is injured. Stop him! Ancestral Patriarch Hong Xia and Duanmu Guang looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. Go! Duanmu Guang's robe fluttered in the wind as he floated in the air and formed hand seals with his fingers. Every movement of his seemed to be filled with Tao, as if it was compatible with the laws of heaven and earth. There seemed to be flowers blooming and trees growing in his hand, full of vitality. His 10 fingers opened one by one and formed a strange hand seal, which seemed to contain endless vitality, and pressed towards Jiang Tian. Green heaven and earth essence qi gathered in the sky and formed the rolling wood forbidden zone. Dozens of giant rolling wood forbidden zone were stacked on top of each other and embedded into each other, forming a magnificent dimensional fence. The fence looked tangible, but it wasn't actually a dimensional fence. It formed a dimensional forbidden zone and appeared to be solid. It was thick, heavy, and indestructible, almost like a spatial barrier. It seemed to be able to stop the flood and cut off the meteors. It wanted to stop Jiang Tian and save Hushi. Crack. However, the rolling wood forbidden zone only blocked Jiang Tian's sword aura for a moment before it was broken. Duanmu Guang grunted and flew backwards like a broken doll. The Dharma in his hand collapsed and he was terrified to the extreme. The rolling wood forbidden zone that I used was already the limit of my forbidden zone, but it couldn't stop him from waving his hand. How terrifying is Kong Teichu's power? No wonder he could kill Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun. Duanmu Guang had entered the nascent soul realm for a long time. He had mastered the forbidden zone to the point of perfection. Even Emperor Qinqing couldn't break his rolling wood forbidden zone at will. However, it couldn't stop Jiang Tian's gentle palm strike. How could he not be shocked? However, his forbidden zone only lasted for a moment, giving Hushi time to escape and Red Cloud Ancestor's attack. Go! Red Cloud Ancestor's nascent soul screamed. His hair and beard fluttered and his sleeves fluttered. He waved his sleeve. In an instant, the Red Cloud Forbidden Zone was pushed to the limit. Rays of red light shot out like cannonballs and formed many crystal-like rays of red light. They surged like a tide and shot across the sky, heading towards Jiang Tian. Hushi was barely able to survive. After swallowing a pill, he immediately slashed at Jiang Tian more than 10 times. He ran for his life and yelled, "This guy is too strong. Let's return to the Crimson Stone sect and activate the defensive formation." Even though Hushi had swallowed a nascent soul pill with excellent nourishing effects, he still felt very uncomfortable. His nascent soul felt like it was about to shatter. He already understood that the three of them couldn't defeat Jiang Tian. They had to report this to Emperor Qinqing and send all the nascent soul realm cultivators from Jade Lake. No, only Emperor Qinqing would be able to kill Jiang Tian. Run! In fact, Duanmu Guang also felt that his chances of winning were slim. He just didn't want to give up. Now that Hushi was running away, the last support in his Dao heart collapsed. After casting several forbidden zones at Jiang Tian, his body shook and he broke through the space to escape. Red Cloud Ancestor also shouted in panic, "Huang Qianzhong, what are you waiting for?" What? You're all running away? Crown Prince Huang Qi was so shocked that his eyeballs almost popped out. 4 nascent soul heavenly lords. It was such a powerful lineup that they could destroy everything in their path. They're running away? At this moment, the cultivators of the Crimson Field Jasper Lake were dumbfounded and took a deep breath. The situation had taken a turn for the worse, which was beyond everyone's expectation. The 4 nascent soul realm cultivators were so arrogant and confident. They claimed that they could kill Jiang Tian as easily as crushing an ant. But the outcome was actually like this. 1 died, 3 were injured, and they fled in all directions in panic like stray dogs. This was simply like an enormous joke, and no one would believe it if it was told to others. You want to run? Do you think you can escape from me? Jiang Tian smiled calmly. He lazily stretched out his hand and made a grabbing motion. I'll let you know the true forbidden zone. The divine disk in Jiang Tian's dantian spun, and the galaxy representing the sea-calming ice divine body suddenly shone and rose to the sky. Endless cold and lonely starlight formed a 1,000-foot snow giant behind Jiang Tian. It was covered in white hair and was covered in ice crystals. The snow giant opened its mouth and roared like a tiger. It spat out a white spatial frost mist, and the rolling power of the Dinghai Pearl swept out. Instantly, the frost was thousands of meters long, like a white rainbow. This white ray of light contained extremely terrifying energy of restriction, and it was even more terrifying than the cold winds in the depths of hell. Everywhere it passed, it destroyed all life in its path, causing space to be completely frozen, and it seemed to have become 10 times thicker and heavier than before. But how can this be? Hu Shi and the other 2 nascent soul stage cultivators suddenly felt an extreme binding force, as if they had fallen into an invisible gate that weighed billions of tons. Moreover, this heavy gate filled every inch of space in all directions, making it impossible to dodge or bypass. It was hindering their progress. A forbidden zone. Hu Shi was immediately horrified. This was a true forbidden zone, not a fake forbidden zone. Moreover, it was a forbidden zone of a higher level than theirs. Break for me. After realizing this, Hu Shi burned his nascent soul and boiled his blood. His muscles and bones kept expanding, and he immediately grew from a 2-meter brawny man to 100 meters tall. At this time, his dragon scales were glittering and his horns protruded, which was the result of activating his hidden bloodline. It's useless. Jiang Tian placed his hands behind his back, and he approached Meng Chao at a leisurely pace, as if he was taking a stroll in the park. It's too late from the moment I performed the Ice God Forbidden Zone. Break. Hu Shi was terrified. He waved the peerless heavenly blade in the shape of a rhinoceros horn and performed more than 10 forbidden spells. But how can there be such a terrifying forbidden zone in the world? You're just an early-stage golden core cultivator. Even a supreme-grade nascent soul cultivator can't perform such a terrifying forbidden zone. However, amidst his angry and unwilling roar, Hu Shi discovered to his despair that he couldn't break Jiang Tian's Dinghai Pearl forbidden zone at all. Instead, he was panting and spitting out blood. Chapter 1347. Gradually, Hu Shi's movements became slower and slower. Every time he moved, he seemed to be lifting a mountain. He didn't hesitate to burn his nascent soul blood essence, but he was still so tired that his body trembled. His qi and blood were rapidly declining, and his hair was turning white at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, he was completely frozen. He couldn't even move his little finger, and his nascent soul was dead silent. Return! Jiang Tian shouted as he reached out with his right hand and made a grabbing motion. What made everyone flabbergasted was Jiang Tian's dantian rumbled again and the divine will spun again. 100-foot black-scaled Taotai jumped out. The black-scaled Taotai was mighty and domineering. It had greedy eyes and its mouth was wide open. Its fangs were as sharp as swords, as if they could swallow the world. Go! Jiang Tian took a step forward, as if he was driving away a fly, and casually waved his hand. The black-scaled Taotai dashed forward and transformed into an extremely deep black vortex with a radius of 1 mile. The black whirlpool was like a black hole in the universe. It seemed to be able to swallow the world and destroy planets. Even the speed of light couldn't escape from it. This black vortex was incomparably thick and deep. It had an unparalleled devouring power that made one feel as if they were about to fall into it and be unable to extricate themselves from it. Even their spirit and mental energy were about to disappear completely. It was as if the life and death of civilizations, the reincarnation of the sun and the moon, the destruction of the void and even the collapse of the universe were all in the whirlpool. When the whirlpool arrived above Hushi's head, it swallowed him like a whale swallowing a cow. Amidst the mournful and unwilling screams, Hushi was instantly torn into shreds, breaking apart inch by inch. The translucent bones, the indestructible scales, the immense and heavy blood, and even the vigorous nascent soul were all shattered into a mist of blood that rolled out like tides into straight ribbons of light and flowed toward the black swirl. The Taotai returned to its origin, devouring everything. With a single swallow, Hushi fell. It's another type of forbidden domain. Oh God, how many laws does he control? How many forbidden realms does he have? This forbidden realm is so terrifying. It can swallow a nascent soul. Everyone cried out in surprise. They were flabbergasted as if they had seen a demon. Since Jiang Tian attacked, he had already displayed at least 4 types of laws. He had derived 4 types of supreme forbidden domains: cut, annihilate, shackle, and devour. Throughout history, every nascent soul cultivator could only control one type of forbidden domain. There were even some with poor talent and perception that couldn't even touch the edge of the laws, unable to control even one type. And yet, Jiang Tian was able to control so many at once. Furthermore, all of Jiang Tian's forbidden realms were far more powerful than normal nascent soul cultivators and comparable to the realms of soul formation cultivators. How could this not be shocking? But this was only the beginning. At this time, Red Cloud Ancestor and Duanmu Guang were also firmly locked in place by Jiang Tian's sea-quelling forbidden zone. They could not break free at all. Even their nascent souls could not move. Chila. As Jiang Tian pointed his finger, a bloody hole appeared on the forehead of the terrified Red Cloud Old Ancestor. This bloody hole was extremely small, but cracks quickly appeared like broken porcelain. The cracks continued to spread and eventually spread to his entire body. In the end, they gathered in his spirit embryo and broke his nascent soul. A vast amount of essence qi gushed out from the cracks. How can I die under the finger of an ant from Earth? Red Cloud Ancestor's eyes shone with resentment, but in the end, it completely turned into despair. His nascent soul roared as if it wanted to reform his nascent soul and body. Unfortunately, in the end, both his nascent soul and body exploded with a boom. Ancestor is dead. He's dead. When Red Cloud Ancestor died, many cultivators of the Huang family, the Crimson Stone sect, and the nobles of the Crimson Light dynasty were dumbfounded. Some of them even cried and fell to the ground, crying loudly. In their eyes, Red Cloud Ancestor was like a god who guarded this world and protected them. He had brought them good fortune for generations to come. Now, he had perished and disappeared. They felt as if their hearts had been pierced by a knife. They could not accept it. Even the ancestor is dead. Absolute beginning dominator, spare my life. Crown Prince Huang Qi was dumbfounded as he shivered. Then, his entire body turned cold and a deep fear coiled around his body like a poisonous snake. He could no longer hold on as he knelt on the ground and kowtowed repeatedly. He's dead. What have I done? On the other hand, tears rolled down Huang Qianzhong's cheeks as well, and he seemed to have lost his soul. His footsteps staggered, and he couldn't even stand steadily while a strand of bitter and dense regret surged into his heart, causing him to be unable to wash it away even if he poured all the water in the world into it. From the beginning, he didn't take Jiang Tian seriously. His opponents had always been Bai Zhe, Ding Lai, and the others. Until the news of Jiang Tian killing Ancestor Tyree came, he also thought that Jiang Tian had only won by using tricks. Now, he understood that he had underestimated Jiang Tian too much. Jiang Tian's strength had reached an unimaginable height. If he had been more cautious at the beginning, not to mention fighting side by side with Jiang Tian and the Stellar Sky Domain, he wouldn't have met with such an ending. He might even have the chance to become Jiang Tian's friend. Explode! Let's perish together! Seeing his two fellow Taoists fall one after another without any resistance, Duanmu Guang fought back even more crazily. Swish! His eyes flashed with a cold and fierce light, and his face was filled with endless determination. His nascent soul released an endless green aura like a green jade crystal that was expanding. A force 100 times stronger than the golden core was completely awakened at this moment. Not good. He's going to explode his nascent soul. Bai Zhe was shocked. Let's go. Patriarch Shenlong was also furious. He waved his sleeves and retreated hundreds of miles away with Ding Lingdang and the others. The nascent soul was the result of a cultivator breaking the core to form the nascent soul. It could resonate with the laws. A nascent soul heavenly lord could replace the heavenly heart with his heart. With a thought, he could freeze everything within 100 miles and destroy everything within 10 miles with one attack. Once the nascent soul exploded, its power would be extremely terrifying and unimaginable. It would be more powerful than dozens of standard nuclear weapons and was comparable to an attack from a soul formation cultivator. Even a forbidden realm created by a nascent soul cultivator would be destroyed. Kong Teichu, you killed my son and pushed me too far. Today, I'm going to perish with you. You brought all of this upon yourself. Go to hell. That green nascent soul was only about an inch long, as if it had been carved out of jade. It glared at Jiang Tian with resentment and roared furiously. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Boom! The nascent soul suddenly exploded, and an unparalleled destructive force spread out in all directions. The space was shattered into chaos, and an extremely ear-piercing cracking sound was heard. Cracks actually appeared on the forbidden area that Jiang Tian had created. My dear children and grandchildren of the Duanmu family, you should be smiling if you know about this. Ancestral Patriarch has exploded his nascent soul to avenge you. An elder of the Duanmu family in the crowd said with tears in his eyes. It was rare and tragic to explode a nascent soul to kill an enemy. It was a method that would cause both sides to suffer. Even if a cultivator didn't die after exploding his nascent soul, his power would drop to the bottom and he would be no different from a normal person without any power. Meanwhile, Duanmu Guang's situation was even more special. He had already been trapped by Jiang Tian's forbidden realm and there was no way he could escape. He would definitely die. Kong Teichu is too powerful. He killed 3 nascent soul cultivators and forced one to explode himself. At this moment, many people were stunned. But Kong Teichu is too young and he's too arrogant. Doesn't he know that we shouldn't chase after a cornered enemy? But Prince Huangqi said with hatred. Right, even a rabbit will bite when it's cornered. Besides, he's a nascent soul heavenly lord. The explosion of a nascent soul is as powerful as an attack from a soul formation cultivator. This time, Kong Teichu will be severely injured even if he doesn't die. Overlord Shenhua and some other overlords shook their heads and sneered. Many people thought that Jiang Tian didn't know when to back down. He had already won, so it was best to stop while he was ahead. Why did he have to be so aggressive and make both sides suffer? In a flash, Duanmu Guang's green nascent soul exploded above Nuanyu Blessed Land. In a blink, streams of green nascent soul essence flashed across the sky like missiles, creating a 1-mile-long turbulence. They tore the dimension apart and swept towards Jiang Tian. At this moment, Nuanyu Blessed Land was severely affected. The palaces and magnificent pavilions, which were engraved with countless rune arrays and made with heavenly treasures and could withstand the attacks of golden core cultivators and nuclear weapon centers, were torn apart like pieces of paper and turned into dust. After a few flicks of the fingers, the entire warm jade blessed land disappeared. It was forcibly erased. How ruthless! You're willing to detonate your nascent soul to kill me. I admire you. In the void, the long robe was pulled straight back by the violent energy waves, but Jiang Tian was like a spring breeze, with his hands behind his back. His face was as calm as still water, as he let out a long sigh, and even had a hint of admiration in his eyes. Jiang Tian wasn't mocking him, but actually complimenting him. Duanmu Guang was much more decisive than the other 3 nascent soul cultivators. He knew he couldn't escape death, so he fought with Jiang Tian. As far as Jiang Tian was concerned, being so resolute in cutting off all means of retreat was the true nature of a cultivator. What a shame! Jiang Tian shook his head and sighed. Your 2 fellow cultivators were not as resolute as you. Otherwise, it would have been quite a mess if you detonated your nascent souls at the same time. What? After hearing what Jiang Tian said and seeing how calm Jiang Tian was, Duanmu Guang was startled and an unbelievable thought came to his mind. Could it be that he could withstand the explosion of his nascent soul? Then he saw something horrified. The green wood elemental nascent soul essence became slower and slower after it was pushed 3 miles away. In the end, it floated in the air like green smoke. At that moment, Jiang Tian had already activated the Forbidden Zone with the Dinghai Pearl's golden core to control Duanmu Guang. The Dinghai Pearl's Forbidden Zone was extremely sturdy. Duanmu Guang had already used up most of his Dharma power by exploding his nascent soul. He was already at the end of his rope when he reached Jiang Tian. Duanmu Guang and the others had never realized that Jiang Tian had formed a golden core that controlled 9 types of laws and formed 9 forbidden zones. Not even 9 nascent soul heavenly lords would be a match for him. They had seriously underestimated Jiang Tian's strength from the beginning to the end. Tuk-tuk-tuk. Jiang Tian raised his hand and gently tapped the green, misty nascent soul essence blood. The essence of a wood elemental nascent soul. Not bad. So, I won't leave it for you. Taotai returns. That heart-palpitating black vortex had once again appeared in the world. Chapter 1348. It floated in front of Jiang Tian's Dantian, like the biggest and most terrifying black hole in the universe. It seemed to be able to break all laws and swallow all worlds. The vast energy of the azure nascent souls suddenly moved again. However, it didn't attack Jiang Tian. Instead, it went into the black vortex like a swallow returning to the forest. In just a few seconds, the essence of the nascent souls had been completely swallowed by the black vortex. Not even a drop was left. Kong Teichu, this isn't the end. The Jade Lake world won't let you go. In the end, even Duanmu Guang's many protective true treasures and powerful body were torn apart amidst his despairing screams. They turned into surging essence chi that surged towards the black vortex. Boom! Only after Jiang Tian absorbed all of the blood essence of the 4 nascent soul cultivators and cancelled his forbidden realm divine power did a thunderous rumble resound through the void. Billowing airwaves instantly spread hundreds of miles away, and even thousands of miles away, reaching an unfathomable distance. Before this, most of the energy had been sealed by Jiang Tian's forbidden domain. Now that Jiang Tian had put away the forbidden domain, the remaining energy had started to ripple out, and the remaining energy had completely erupted. At this moment, the entire Scarlet Field world, which was thousands of kilometers in radius, was trembling. Heaven and earth were in chaos, and the mountains and rivers were displaced. Rocks of all sizes jumped up high, as if there was an earth-shattering earthquake. The dimensional barriers were glittering, twisting, and stretching, making the stars in the sky blur, as if they were about to collapse. Who's causing such an earth-shattering battle? The power of a single strike is so terrifying. Could it be that His Majesty the Azure Emperor has descended? No, I heard that the Lord of Star World is here. Terrifying. At this instant, no matter if it was cultivators, demon beasts, or commoners, the myriad of living beings felt Jiang Tian's monstrous divine might, and they were terrified to the point of trembling as they prostrated themselves on the ground and prostrated themselves in worship. Terrifying. Extremely terrifying. This time, when they faced Jiang Tian's peerless divine ability and might, all of them felt as if they'd fallen into an ice cellar. Their entire bodies couldn't help but tremble, and they were unable to arouse the slightest desire to resist. Before this, it was rumored that Jiang Tian had killed Patriarch Tai Ri and Chen Liuhe. Everyone could say that Jiang Tian had used tricks or sneak attacks to win. At this moment, they were certain that Jiang Tian had crushed them in strength from beginning to end. Especially when Duanmu Guang did not hesitate to detonate his nascent soul in order to take Jiang Tian down with him. However, Jiang Tian easily neutralized the attack and even devoured his nascent soul. This made everyone's hair stand on end. Originally, a core formation cultivator couldn't challenge a nascent soul cultivator. This had never happened in the Jade Pool or the Crimson Wild World since ancient times. Jiang Tian had slain 4 nascent soul stage cultivators in a row, which had broken the understanding of all cultivators. Besides, Duanmu Guang had detonated his nascent soul in the end, which was comparable to an attack from a soul formation grand cultivator, but he still couldn't defeat him. Didn't that mean that Kong Taichu had the strength to face a soul formation grand cultivator? Just how strong was Jiang Tian? Everyone felt that they could not see through him. He was less than 50 years old and came from a remote place like Earth, but he was able to fight with a soul formation cultivator. This was simply unbelievable. Clatter, clatter, clatter. A golden core cultivator killed a nascent soul stage cultivator? How could there be such a monstrous freak in the Earth realm? Crown Prince Huang Qi's teeth chattered and he murmured with a broken voice. He was extremely talented and was able to form a golden core at such a young age. He was at least much more powerful than Li Longyuan, the master of the Starry Sky Palace back then. But at this moment, compared to Jiang Tian, he felt that he couldn't be more trashy. There was no comparison at all. He wasn't even worthy of carrying Jiang Tian's shoes. Even a superior grade golden core cultivator can't do that. The difference between a nascent soul cultivator and a golden core cultivator is like heaven and earth. It's even possible that he's already reached the nascent soul level, but he suppressed his power before. A sect master on the Qi sect guessed with a trembling voice. But he only has the resources of earth. How can he reach the nascent soul level? Even the Qi world hasn't had a second nascent soul cultivator in thousands of years, apart from ancestral patriarch Hong Xia. An old woman next to him said with a hoarse voice. She couldn't accept it. No matter what. If he can kill a nascent soul cultivator, killing golden core cultivators and foundation establishment cultivators like us will be a piece of cake. I think we should hurry up and show our goodwill, or we'll be in trouble. Another sect master said with a trembling voice. At this moment, no matter if it was Qi or the cultivators of the Jade Lake, all of them were shocked. They were like clay statues, unable to move. He can even swallow the explosion of a nascent soul cultivator. What else can't he swallow? Even ancestral patriarch True Dragon was deeply shocked. He had spent many days with Jiang Tian, so he knew how heaven-defying Jiang Tian's golden core was. However, he didn't expect it to be this heaven-defying. Even in the entire ruins of immortality, there probably wasn't such a terrifying golden core. This move of the Taichu Dominator is enough to conquer the universe. Bai Zai's eyes shone with a bright light that he had never seen before. He was extremely excited, and at the same time, he stared at the black vortex in Jiang Tian's hand, not letting go of a single detail as he secretly comprehended it. He's so powerful now. How many resources does he have? The corners of Zhang Qianlei's mouth twitched, and his eyes were opened wide with disbelief. At this moment, he was extremely regretful. He shouldn't have left Jiang Tian and come to this world alone just to surpass Jiang Tian. If he had followed Jiang Tian, he would have been a golden core cultivator. One of the Jade Lake's special envoys finally reacted. Without saying a word, he turned into a shooting star and flew into the distance, leaving behind a long and blurry green afterimage. This person was a golden core cultivator and was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had flown dozens of miles away. The others looked at each other. Some of them were eager to try, while others directly flew into the sky. Kong Taichu was too terrifying. Not only was he powerful, but he was also ferocious. If they stayed, they would be cruelly punished. "Don't move," Jiang Tian said and flicked his finger at the Jade Lake cultivator who had flown 100 miles away. Bang! There was a muffled sound. The golden core of the Jade Lake envoy exploded and his body shattered, turning into a rain of flesh and broken bones that fell to the ground. "Who dares to run? You will die," Jiang Tian said calmly, but there was a great majesty in his voice. At this time, his vast Dharma power had completely enveloped an area of dozens of miles, making the earth rumble and the void tremble as if an ancient god had descended. At this moment, countless cultivators within 100 miles lowered their heads and trembled when they felt Jiang Tian's terrifying aura. They didn't dare to look at Jiang Tian and gave up the idea of running away. "We will wait for the punishment of the absolute beginning dominator. We are willing to submit to the absolute beginning dominator and protect the stellar sky domain and the earth domain. We will do anything for you." We were forced by Huang Qianzhong and the Jade Lake cultivators. The cultivators knelt in the air and were extremely uneasy. Jiang Tian's Kunpeng was too fast. If the finger radiance or the flying sword were strengthened by the Kunpeng, it would be 10 times faster. Even if you ran for 10 minutes, you still wouldn't be able to escape. At this time, the smoke and clouds had disappeared. The starry sky was bright and the barren red land was silent. Jiang Tian stood in the void with his hands behind his back. His white robe was bathed in the starry light and was not stained by a speck of dust or damage. Obviously, he still had some energy left to fight against the 4 nascent soul cultivators. In addition, many cultivators were prostrating themselves in worship. The area within 100 miles was extremely quiet. Ding Lingdong's beautiful eyes bloomed as she looked up at Jiang Tian. She felt that Jiang Tian was like an ancient divine king that had descended to the mortal world. He was high and mighty. No one could stop him and no one dared to challenge his majesty. Venerable Shenghua, the Imperial Thunder sect has been friends with the Stellar Sky domain and the Earth domain for generations. But you killed the old sect master, Tang Yuan, with 1 sword. Now, I want to kill you to avenge Tang Yuan. What do you have to say? For a long time, in the heart-palpitating silence, Jiang Tian put his left hand behind his back and took out the green jade wine pot with his right hand. He took a sip of the Thunderfire wine with a calm and relaxed expression. There was even a hint of mockery on his face. "Kong Teichu, don't you dare be so arrogant. There are 7 heavenly lord families and sects above the Jade Lake. There are less than 10 nascent soul heavenly lords and the Azure the Arch is even more powerful. You've only killed 4 nascent soul heavenly lords so far. If the Jade Lake goes crazy and seeks revenge, you won't be able to live." Venerable Shenghua was already trembling in fear, but he had to give it a try in the face of death. He shouted, "As long as you don't kill me, I'll help you mediate. We can shake hands and make peace." "Mediate?" Jiang Tian shook his head and smiled mockingly. "I killed Emperor Qinqing's son, woman and right-hand men. This is a life and death feud. You can't mediate at all." "It all depends on the person." Venerable Shenghua opened his mouth and wanted to say something. However, Jiang Tian's eyes were indifferent as he interrupted. "In fact, I don't want you to help me mediate. I don't want to make peace with Emperor Qinqing. Otherwise, I wouldn't have killed them. You don't have to worry about whether I fight or make peace with Emperor Qinqing. Anyway, I'm going to kill you." As he spoke, Jiang Tian mercilessly slapped down with his palm. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.